Welcome to another episode of Good Teams Win, Great Teams Cover. We're back for our Week 14 preview. And as you can see, we are kicking off with our guest segment. This week, we've got Simon Winstanley joining us from the UK Steelers podcast. Returning guest and friend of the show. The guys at the UK Steelers pod have been so great to us. And the Steelers are flying. So what a great opportunity it is to sit down and chat all things Pittsburgh Steelers with Simon. We'll preview the Browns game, and Simon is also going to take part in our fourfold challenge. And then the rest of the show will be our usual picks and preview, where we'll talk through the rest of the games, preview fantasy game day, and talk through the biggest games of the week. But Simon, welcome back. It's great to have you on.
Thank you. Yeah, very glad to be here, Paul. Good to chat to you again before the show, and didn't want to miss coming on here again. So maybe a week early, but very excited to be here. And hey, who knew it? The Steelers are out here in November, December, stomping on heads. Worst team in the AFC North, off-season champions for 3 years in a row.
They are, and just we are obviously massive fans here of Mike Tomlin and the Steelers, just because they make you money more than anything else. We are a gambling show, and we love it when we see the Steelers as an underdog. We absolutely love it. Hammer your money on the Steelers and hammer your money on Mike Tomlin as an underdog. Keep doing it, bookmakers. Keep doing it, Vegas, and we'll keep making money.
Sorry to derail your show straight away. Did you get money on the Steelers over/under before the season? The number of games won, because that was crazy. I mean, it was like
it was pretty low. Was it 8.5? Was it 7.5? Yeah.
I think it maybe varied, but yeah, it was very low because it was under a losing season. It was like, come on, guys, have we got no evidence?
Yeah, I mean, it's literally never happened before. Never ever happened before, which is mad. So yeah, it is crazy to think. I don't think I jumped on the Steelers line, although I know I should have done. Over 7.5. I think we talked to seeing it over 7.5, 8.5. Crazy to just discount the Steelers. But yeah, it's been fantastic so far from the Steelers. Absolutely, 9-3. They have the path to win the division. Obviously, they've got the win over the Ravens already. I mean, given where all that talk in the offseason and Fields and Russell Wilson coming in and where they're at, how are they beyond where you thought they'd be at this point in the season, Simon, in terms of being, leading that division and having a clear run at winning it, and even potentially the number one seed's not out of the question either, is it? At the minute, especially with the games they've got left. So, is this far beyond where you thought they'd be, or do you think kind of they were really underestimated and this is fair for where they should be?
Yeah, I would love to tell you that I thought the Steelers would be 9-3 at this point in the season, but yeah, even this is kind of a little bit beyond my expectations. But I think it speaks to kind of how the Steelers are built, as you're saying. It's almost cliche at this point to say, Steelers are a well-run organization and Mike Tomlin's a great coach, blah, blah, blah. Everyone knows that. But I don't know if you've seen the first episode of this AFC Hard Knocks, this in season one. I think you really, really see in granular detail because it's basically following, if you've not seen it, anyone who's not watched it yet, it's following the game between the Bengals and the Steelers last week. And it shows the preparation and a lot of the speeches and the work that Zach Taylor and Mike Tomlin are doing, kind of the individual work that the players are doing. And I mean, you can just see it's night and day. There's just a million kind of little micro reasons, I've been calling them, that you can see why the Steelers are the organization that they are and the Bengals are the Bungles. You could just see it plain as day. To go back to your question, no, I would never have thought the Steelers would have got to 9-3, but there's been a lot of extenuating factors to it, right? The weird thing is, Paul, we've lost to the Cowboys. We've lost to the Browns. What was that first loss? I can't recall at this point, but I'm pretty sure that wasn't a particularly impressive one. So, I mean, this is what the Steelers do, right? We drag teams into the mud, whether that's up, whether that's down. Everyone's playing at our level. And that game that we saw against the Bengals last week, which was a bit of a shootout, is the first game I've seen like that in maybe 5 or 6 years, where the Steelers have really gone to town on a team like that. And I think that, to me, personally, it speaks to a team that's coming together, that's starting to believe in itself, that I was actually a little bit surprised was able to bounce back so effectively after a disappointing game in the snow to the Browns on primetime. But to come back and to not only beat what is one of your biggest rivals in the Bengals, but the Bengals, I don't know how much you know about kind of the the vibe of this division at the moment, because the Browns are kind of the annoying little brother that are always biting at people's ankles but don't do anything. The Bengals are like the brother that shot up a few years ago, right? That we used to bully them, and now they've like shot up 3 inches and they're a little bit taller than us now, right? Well, we found a way to still just stomp on their heads and end their season. So it's all very exciting. It's beyond my wildest expectations. But I think, like I say, it speaks to a team that is built differently. And even if the pieces, there's no Jamar Chase on this team, although maybe George Pickens. There's no T Higgins. The team isn't necessarily built to the same specification. There's a unity about this team, and they play for each other, and they would run through a wall for Mike Tomlin. And that might sound cliche to some people that don't believe in momentum, but let me tell you, momentum is alive and true, and the Pittsburgh Steelers have proven it.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd run for a brick wall for Mike Tomlin. I think I'd love to have him as kind of my coach or boss or whatever. Because I think he just manages to get the best out of every, the squeeze every single last drop out of the people around him. It is insanely impressive. And yet again, 9 wins, so above 500. Yet again, is it 18 in a row? Is that is 18 in a row?
Yeah, I think that's the 18. I mean, he's never had a losing season, so yeah.
Which is crazy when you just think of kind of the way the NFL is built around parity and cycles and things like that. Just to kind of be so consistent throughout all that is insane.
And some people seem to want to do the kind of the lurch from good to bad, right? They want to do the Rams thing where, we're going to sell out for a Super Bowl. We're going to trade a lot of pieces, and then we're going to F them picks. We're going to be really bad. We're going to bust for it. Obviously, that's not really the way it's worked out with the Rams, but a lot of teams think that's the way to go. For me, I think it's all about consistency. You're never going to you might win a Super Bowl. You might get lucky like the Rams or the Bucs did with Tampa Bay, for example. I think those are really like kind of, shocks. I don't think those are going to happen every year. You're going to get back to a kind of a parity with some of these big teams. Like we had the dynasty with the Patriots for so long, and now we got the Chiefs. I think they kind of snuck in there in a little bit of a gap that they had. You're not going to get that. You want consistency. You want a team that can build on a foundation, and that foundation's always there. And the Steelers have struggled the last few years to kind of build from it, but it's always there. And when you get a season like this where things just kind of fall right with Russell Wilson, you can see what it does.
Yeah, I think probably the thing that's impressed me most with the Steelers, I think, so far this season, and this past week against the Bengals was kind of a factor in that and taking it one step further. They've shown different ways to win football games. So we've had the games. They've won 2 games without scoring a touchdown. It's just all been Boswell field goals.
Take that, Dan Orlovsky. It can be done.
Absolutely, yeah. And I'm crazy. I saw that piece that Dallas did after they just beat the Ravens, scoring 6 field goals, and going, well, you're not going to win. You're not going to win scoring just field goals. It's like, well, they just beat the Ravens. Like, what more do you want?
JJ Watt dropped the joke of the season on Dan Orlovsky by saying that's the analyst equivalent of walking out the back of the end zone with the ball. Great stuff. Great job.
It is, and I just think that they showed something out, another sort of just string to the bow this week. That first half against Bengals was just a shootout. Like again, they stepped on it second half, and but the first half it was a basketball game back and forth, and they showed they can hang and they can win those games. A game like that as well, which you wouldn't necessarily say that would be the case for a Mike Tomlin team or the way that the Steelers might want to play, but no, we can do that now as well. I think that's probably the bit I've been most impressed with, knowing they can win any kind of game.
Yeah. Some analysts have sort of said, they're relying too heavily on the Russell Wilson moonball. And I went back and watched this game today. We're doing our podcast later on today. I was watching it. And, I remembered that Russell Wilson moonball, but I don't know if you're like this. I've got a terrible memory. I can never quite remember the sequence of things and how they happen in games like a few days later. So I was thinking to myself, that was a big play in the game. They didn't even score on that drive. We got pushed back and then the field goal was blocked. So that was the only moonball that we even hit in that game. To be honest, the vast majority of yardage we picked up in the air in that game was these little dump-offs over the center of the field. Because somehow the Bengals did not adjust in the entire game. And we spent the first half completely slaughtering them over the middle of the field, which Russell Wilson never does. He doesn't throw there. But there was just a complete soft spot in the zone, in that kind of 5, 6, 7 yard area in the intermediate area. And he was just hitting it over and over again. The Bengals didn't adjust all game. And it was just there all day, and he just kept hitting it. And that's what you get from Russ. He'll take what he's given. And if he's not given anything, he'll throw that moonshot to George Pickens, and it's working more than it's not.
And you mentioning Russell Wilson there. Of course, the change was made earlier in the season from Justin Fields. What else is he giving you? Because the Steelers were going along, all right. Like, they were
Yeah.
obviously they had a winning record at the time. Fields wasn't. It's not as if Fields was making back-breaking turnovers or giving up games. But the change was made to Russell Wilson once he was kind of fit again, or obviously he had kind of a lingering injury. What's Russ giving you to kind of take this on the last 6 weeks or so?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, Justin Fields was keeping the ball safe, and I think that was the surprise in Steelers land because, we'd expected Justin Fields to be a little bit electric with his legs and whatnot, but we also expected him to be a little bit more loose to the football than we'd experienced in recent years because, for all you could say about Kenny Pickett and then everything that came after him, the kind of the modus operandi of the Steelers had been don't turn over the ball and keep it safe, and that's how Mike Tomlin wanted to play these games because, of course, we were rarely scoring over 16 points, so these games had to be tight. We couldn't be giving away possessions. Justin Fields wasn't doing that, and so it became a real debate on our show and around Steelers Nation. What do we want to do with Russell Wilson when he gets fully healthy? And I'm sure you remember at the start of the season, the first sort of 4 or 5 weeks of the season, it was becoming almost like a little bit silly in the Mike Tomlin press conferences where people were asking, "Well, who's the starter?" And he's like, "I straight up don't need to answer that question." Like, and I'd never seen it before, man. Like, usually, you know what coaches are like, right? There's a certain there's a certain kind of coach speak, right? And normally when someone is asked who's the starter, it's like in a very official line. And at very most, it might be, well, we're holding on that, close to our chest until Sunday. But Tomlin was very much like, I don't even need to name a starter at all in this season if I don't want. Like, I'll just put out whoever I want on any given play, and that's the starter. And I was like, you know what? Okay, I love it. But you have seen Russell Wilson obviously take over and with a different echelon of play, and he isn't the quarterback that we saw in Denver. And I think obviously the big worry for most teams and the reason he wasn't signed was that people thought that he was, a lame duck, and what he'd shown in Denver was kind of the end of his career, and you weren't going to see Pete Russell Wilson again. And I guess what he's shown is that he wasn't done. He didn't write back, as Gino said. And it does feel to me. Listen, I think what they've hit on here with Justin Fields and Russell Wilson is a kind of a once in a lifetime maybe piece at the quarterback room. It feels to me like in most teams, even when quarterbacks say the right thing and they're working together, if there's any kind of friction there in terms of who the starter is or might be, it can turn sour so quickly because there's egos involved. These are elite athletes. These are guys that have always been the best players on their teams and at their positions or everywhere they've ever been. And so you can imagine getting a guy like Justin Fields, a first-round pick, in a room with a Super Bowl winning quarterback like Russell Wilson that everyone thinks is over the hill, and he comes in injured and doesn't play for a few weeks. I think that's drama in 31 out of 32 teams. I really do. I think it's a nightmare. And I think Mike Tomlin keeping everything in-house. You only need to watch after the Bengals game. Obviously, they're doing the AFC, as I mentioned, they're doing the AFC Hard Knocks. Broderick Jones comes up after him. He notices he's got the mic on. He says, "Oh shit, are you mic'd up?" And Mike Tomlin's like, "Shut the fuck." Get in the locker room, bro. Shut your ass up. Because like that, none of that stuff needs to be in the hallways. None of that stuff needs to be for the cameras, right? He hates when people are doing these live streams where they're saying anything after the game. This is all in-house. There's been no arguing about this, and they've been so great for each other. To me, it really feels like Russell Wilson in some way has helped kind of develop Justin Fields' career, and he's going to help him bounce back. And whether Justin Fields stays with us for another season, and we'll see how all that shakes out. We're kind of worried about that, after the season.
Yeah.
Or he ends up somewhere else. I think he's going to have a rejuvenated second part of his career thanks to what he's done here. Maybe like Mitch Trubisky wanted to do with the Bills, but that didn't quite work out. But I think Justin Fields a little bit more talented.
Yeah, it's a little bit hard to get in front of Josh Allen as well, I guess. But yeah, it's I mean, it's crazy as well. And all this as well, kind of where we're at. The Steelers are on 9 wins. They're flying. The offense has progressed, progressed massively. I think over the last about 8 weeks. What was it? Week 6 that Russ came in. Was that week 6 against the Jets?
Yeah, I want to say it was week 6.
Yeah, 7 or 8 weeks. And all this, when we remember the Steelers are only paying him $1.2 million.
That's the crazy thing. Yeah.
Like we've all forgot about that. That it's still the Denver Broncos that are paying Russell Wilson for this and next year, I guess, as well. But yeah, phenomenally, it's a great comeback story. It was great to see what he did. It was just a throwback to the Seahawks days, throwing kind of over 400 yards, and it's been great for the division, I think, as well, because I think you're right what you were saying earlier, that all the talk was about the Bengals and the Ravens. As kind of as it's been the last couple of years, but no, here we are 2/3 of the way through the season, and the Steelers are leading the way. That brings me on to the next part. Again, it's almost like you want to look beyond because the Ravens are still kind of hanging around there. You still got to play them again, so it's not done.
No way.
But I think the Steelers are massive favourites to go on and win that division now. I suppose the next bit is, could the Steelers do enough here to kind of challenge the Bills and the Chiefs? Like, the Chiefs are on 11 wins, aren't they? Given the games you have to play left, to potentially get the number 1 seed in the AFC.
If you'd have asked me this after last week's show, listeners of the UKSB would know. I'd have probably said no. I really was not feeling great after that Browns loss. I wasn't taking into account some of the crazy stuff that was going on in the snow. I think what disappointed me was that it didn't feel like they came out with the same energy and pizzazz that they had in recent games, because the Steelers, especially defensively, but even offensively, I mean, you got to remember, this team is starting basically an entirely new offensive line. Our rookie first-round left tackle has been out for the whole season, so we're starting Broderick Jones and Dan Moore, which it's a tough spot at times, on the extent. But I tell you what, the interior of this line was with 2 rookies on it. Zach Frazier, the center, keep an eye out for him. He's going to be a Pro Bowler. And Mason McCormick, who's a 5th-round pick rookie who's starting. And these guys are violent, Paul. Let me tell you. I mean, I know it can be a little bit cliche at times to talk about offensive linemen like this, but I saw Mason McCormick in his second game. This is a second game of a 5th-round rookie. And the play is over. And this dude sprint 10 yards down the field and wiped a dude out. Like, why? I don't even know why he was blocking there. It probably wasn't even legal. But I tell you what it showed me was that this dude cared. Like, he was in it. Like, this was his life. And he absolutely clotheslined the guy. I was like, okay, this is the Steelers' right guard. I get it. And sorry, yeah, just to go back to your question, can we do it? I mean, that's why I would say, Paul, yes, we can. Will we? I mean, look, the Ravens, they're a great team. I think they've always got the opportunity to kind of drop a bollock, as I would put it. They're not as consistent as the Steelers, but I think they're more talented. We've luckily stomped the Bengals out, so we don't need to worry about them. The Chiefs and the Bills, obviously, I mean, the Bills look great right now. They're on a heater, so I think Josh Allen could win any game. That does scare me. The Chiefs less so. I mean, the Chiefs just seem to have some magic right now. I think everyone's watching them, seeing that it almost seems a little bit silly that they're 11-1. We'll see how that goes. But if you put them, on an equal stadium, or even better in Acrisure, I hate that I said that, Heinz.
Yeah, no, we'll go with Heinz.
Such a terrible name, isn't it?
Acrisure. It always will be.
I think the Chiefs and maybe even the Bills wouldn't be, super pleased to see the Steelers. But here's the thing. As great as this season is and as great as the vibes are right now, the Steelers have not won a playoff game in, I want to say, like 8 years. It's getting, a little bit testy. I think I said this to you the last time I came on the show. Like, that is the talk around. And that's why people, I personally think it's silly to have any discussion about getting rid of Tomlin. But there's certain elements that want to have that discussion and saying, well, look, we've not had any playoff success in the last however many years. We can't seem to get over this hump. Personally, I don't think that is. I think the playoffs are a bit of a crapshoot, right? I mean, it's a 1-game knockout tournament. I don't want to suggest that, it's all luck. I mean, obviously, luck is built on the foundations of good. But I think Tomlin's got those foundations. And just if you look at the situations we've been in terms of how we've got into the playoffs, being the 7th seed, hitting certain difficult wildcard games, a very unfortunate game against the Browns where we just, Ben was really on his last legs and we just got blown out in the first half of that game and we just could never scrape back. What I'm trying to say is there's not many opportunities in the playoffs. And if you can kind of get bugged out a few years in a row in that first round, it can start to feel like a curse. And I don't think it's real. I just think it is what it is. I think this team is plenty good enough to win a playoff game and maybe, go all the way they've been playing. But they've got to keep the core consistent. They've got to stay healthy on that defensive line. You've noticed when Alex Highsmith has been down, even with Nick Herbig in, you do miss something because Alex Highsmith is a dominant force that no one talks about. So we got to stay healthy. But listen, I wouldn't write this team off, Paul. I think it's an outside shot at the Super Bowl, but I think what the Steelers want is to win a Super Bowl, but I think what the Steelers need is to win a playoff game.
Yeah, and I think if the win division get the home playoff game, I don't see any of those wild card teams, who they're looking like being. I don't think the Ravens would, if it worked out that the Steelers hosted the Ravens in the wild card round. I can't, just the way how the success that the Steelers have against the Ravens and Lamar, I can't see them going into Pittsburgh and winning. Chargers could be a difficult game because they seem to I had a bit of a down week last week, but they seem to be getting better as the season goes on. But I think that would be tough for them to come into Pittsburgh and win. And as good as Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos have been as a bit of a surprise, I don't think they could come into Pittsburgh and win as well. So I think I'd be shocked if Pittsburgh didn't win at least one playoff game, assuming they win the division and they're at home. Even if they had to go to Baltimore, if it didn't work out and Baltimore flipped, I'd fancy my chances with the Steelers as well going on the road. So I think this is the year that they'll win at least one, and then who knows from there? Can they hopefully get an advantage so they're playing divisional game at home and beat one of the other stronger teams. It is real interesting to kind of see.
You can certainly see that route. You can see that route to the AFC Championship game, right? Where if you kind of say you draw the Ravens in that wild card round, or whoever. If anything, the fear for me is maybe you get the Broncos or the Colts if they sneak in or whatever, because
the Colts
Steelers,
was
the
your
last thing they
loss,
want to
wasn't
do,
it? Yeah.
Yeah, the last thing you want to do with the Steelers is draw a team that's not as good as you, because
Yeah.
that's a sign that we'll lose.
Yeah.
If anything, it might be the Bills and the Ravens. Yeah, look, the Ravens, it's almost a coin flip because those games are just always so tight. So look, there's a long way to go, but the Steelers are one of those sort of 8 or 9 teams right now that I think are in the mix for the Super Bowl.
Yeah. And this week they've got the opportunity to right one of the wrongs of the season so far. Obviously, you mentioned the crazy snow game in Cleveland a couple of weeks ago on Thursday Night Football that the Browns came out victorious in. But the Steelers host the Browns this week. Steelers are big favourites, I think the 6.5-point favourites. Yeah, 6.5-point favourites, the Steelers in this one. What do the Steelers need to do this week to kind of get it right from where they went wrong in Cleveland a few weeks ago?
Yeah, it's pressure on Jameis, man. I don't really know what was going on that game. We could not get any pressure on Jameis. It didn't, whether, the snow was the snow is the same for everyone. I hate when people use snow as an excuse. George Pickens came out and said, like, oh, it's a snow game. They're not better than us. And I was like, well, George, the Browns had to play in the snow as well. But if you did watch that game, I mean, maybe it sounds homerish, but to me, the Steelers did just look like the better team for 60 minutes. It was a very strange game. Like the Jameis drives that won it were almost indescribable, and Nick Herbig was egregiously held for a game-winning sack on the goal line. Nevertheless, I have never been more confident, Paul, in a football game my entire life than the Steelers beating the Browns this week. I would suggest that the Steelers will not just beat the Browns, they will destroy the Browns' soul for the next 3 or 4 years. There's no hope in hell that this Steelers team allows this Browns team to do the double on it. And at home as well. The Browns are walking into a buzzsaw. It's going to be violent. It's going to be gross. It's going to be... I wouldn't want to be a Browns fan this weekend. Just don't watch the game. Just turn the TV sets off, boys. Go outside. Go for a walk.
They had a rough one Monday night as well, didn't they, in Denver, with Jameis throwing pick after pick and pick six after pick six as well. But who knows? His prayer may be answered this week. He asked the Lord to deliver him from throwing pick sixes. So who knows? Who knows? But it's certainly always a fun one when Jameis Winston is involved. At least it is never dull. Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I'm certainly backing the Steelers and think they'll win quite comfortably. Just the opportunity, just kind of tick one of those losses off. You mentioned lost the Cowboys, Colts, and lost that first game to the Browns a couple of weeks ago. So it's an opportunity to get right on that one. And as well, it feels like if they are going to push to get that number 1 seed, this is one you can't afford to drop, right, really.
For sure. It kind of felt like that on the first one because I wasn't so confident about the Bengals game, and then we went and won that. So this is always how it works with the Steelers. They taketh away and they giveth with the other hand. But yeah, I just cannot see this Browns team walking into Heinz, Acrisure, whatever you want to call it, and coming away with a second win. And that would be absolutely... You think about the first game, I mean, Jameis really didn't throw... I don't think he threw a single turnover, or if he did, there was one... I'm struggling to remember now because my terrible memory, like I said. And there was barely any pressure on in the entire game. That's just not going to happen a second game in a row. I mean, to me, totally mitigating circumstances there. It was all just a weird game. Shouldn't have happened. I can't see us not winning the turnover battle by 3 or 4 in this.
Yeah, it should be a good one. These AFC North games always are. Let's move on then. Finish. We might still be talking about the Steelers, depending who you've picked in your fourfold selections. But you're going to be taking on our fourfold challenge. Just heads up, a guest hasn't won yet, so a guest hasn't got all 4 selections right in 1 3/4 seasons. Although we've not been as hot this year, we've only hit 3 of them. Joe hit last week on a fourfold. I hit a couple of I've hit twice. Yeah, I've hit twice earlier in the season as well. So we're hoping, Simon, you're going to break the duck for the guests. Just to remind everyone, our fourfold challenges, we pick one favourite, 1 underdog, 1 over, 1 under from the week slate in the NFL. Simon, let's start with your favourite. And are you going to shock me and pick somebody that isn't your own team, or are you going to be picking the Pittsburgh Steelers?
Well, I wanted to mention this because I saw the Steelers, like you said, at over 6.5 point favourites. I will say this, while I think it could be a blowout, the Steelers don't have many blowouts. And even in blowouts, they tend to let teams back in towards the end of the game, like you saw with the Bengals. So Whether that line, stays or holds is a question mark for me. But I will say I'm very confident in the win, so I will be taking the Steelers as the favorite.
So it's not, like I say, understand most of our guests do take their team as a favourite or underdog.
I wouldn't normally, Paul. I would not normally if it were not for this game. Like I say, I'm very, very confident the Steelers will destroy the Browns.
Yeah, that's fair. Like it's less than it's 6.5. It's less than a touchdown. That's fair enough. Which underdog do you fancy this week, then, Simon? Who's going to potentially cause an upset, or at least cover?
Yeah, tell me if you think this is a good enough underdog. Because I was looking at the slate this week. I thought it was kind of a tough week to pick an underdog, to be honest. I've gone with the Bears over. Yeah, I've gone with the Bears over the Niners. Niners on a bit of a slide. Maybe this is the obvious one, but to me, like the Niners, a very tough loss last week against the Bills. Just weren't competitive. Their season is looking like it's over. The Bears fighting for a new coach. After a bunch of disasters on a row, it feels like a slightly better team than the record deserves, and I think a slightly better team than the line suggests as well, which I think was it 4.5.
These Bears +4, yeah. And look, we're huge proponents of the interim coach bump. So every time a coach gets fired mid-season, we will be. It doesn't always work out, but I think it does tend to work out more often than not. There's probably some stats there to say it doesn't, but we feel like it does. It might be one of them things that you think happens that doesn't.
The key is, I think, the Niners, obviously, the running back room is banged up. They're going to be starting Isaac Guerrero because they've got the first two out. Brock Purdy's a little bit banged up, whereas Caleb Williams is starting to hit his stride. Keenan Allen's starting to hit his stride. So you start seeing that connection work. The Niners can't move the ball. I think that's the most obvious underdog this week.
Yeah, and the way they've been going as well, like I say, they could lose by a field goal and still cover the 4. The 4 will still be covered. And given the way the Bears have been going, just finding new and inventive ways to lose games almost on a weekly basis recently. Who said that can happen again? But I like that. Yeah, I think most of us will be on the Bears this week. Just like I say, we're huge of that new interim coach bump that comes in. Usually only lasts the 1 week as well. Sometimes some other places it lasts longer, but usually only lasts the 1 week.
The Riz King is loving it down there in New Orleans.
Yeah, 2 out of 3 so far, for sure for the Saints. Let's go with your under. We'll do the under because the under typically is always the boring one. But where you're liking there to be under, there's a lot of high numbers this week though as well. To be fair, so it doesn't necessarily mean there'll be boring games. But where do you foresee an under come in?
Yeah, tell me if you got the same over under. So I've got 46.5 for the Falcons at Vikings. I'm going to go with this one. I think. What have you got?
Yeah,
you got the same number?
Yeah, 45.5. But I'm also.
I'll take it.
Yeah. I'm agreeing with you. I think that could be a bit of a dud. And but yeah.
Yeah, Falcons last 3 games have scored 17 points, 6 points, and 17 points against the Chargers, Broncos, and Saints. The Vikings kind of haven't set the world alight with scoring either, even though you kind of think of them as a more offensive team, and they are. But 23 points, 30 points, 23 points against the Cardinals, the Bears, and the Titans. 12 points against the Jags. These aren't really offensive juggernauts, and I don't think the kind of game the Vikings are going to play is going to be the kind of game that's going to be conducive to scoring 30-plus points. So, if you kind of see a bit of a defensive game here, I could see this being comfortably under 46.
Yeah, I love that shout as well. I think it's a great one. I think Cousins has obviously struggled massively last week. He can't really move. The Vikings love to blitz.
Yeah,
I think it's going to be real difficult for the Falcons. And yeah, the way the Vikings have seemed to slow down offensively from where they were earlier in the season as well. So yeah, I don't think they'll be putting up a mass number as well. I think the whole Kirk Cousins revenge game narrative running through it as well. It stems to be a close one, and I think I agree with you, Simon. Quite low scoring as well. And then the over, where do you foresee there being points this week?
Well, I'm going to give your listeners a tip here, Paul, because there's a key to winning the over this season, I think, and it's just going to be taking the Bengals every week because Joe Burrow is fantastic. I mean, if you watch him against the Steelers, he was great. He really did carve up one of the best defenses in the league. But I'll tell you what sucks, Paul, the Bengals defense. It's one of the most egregious units I have ever seen in my years watching this game. I'd heard about it, right? I watched the games, obviously, you hear about it. But when your team is playing a team, you're paying a different kind of attention. Because you're watching the matchups, you're watching the specific play. And I could not believe the space that our offense was getting. We have very few playmakers, to be honest. I mean, we got George Pickens. I like our backs. Calvin Austin's coming on. But this is not a team loaded with offensive talent. They couldn't do anything. They're awful. They suck. They just suck. They're terrible. So they're playing the Cowboys, who sneakily, even though they're starting Cooper Rush in the last few games, 44. Sorry, that's the Bengals. Cowboys. I not got it in front of me. I thought I did. Bengals, though, in recent games, conceded 44 to the Steelers, 34 to the Chargers, 35 to the Ravens, 24 to the Raiders, and 37 to the Eagles. That's just conceding. And the Cowboys on the other side have been scoring way more points than you'd expect in kind of shootout-y poor games with Cooper Rush. So, I mean, bloody hell, this could be an 80-point game.
Yeah, 49.5 Bengals Cowboys Monday Night Football, the Simpsons game. So we'll chat about that in a bit more detail later on.
Well, yeah, that's it. We've got to get all the Simpsons graphics in, so we've got to get a lot of touchdowns.
Absolutely, got to make ESPN got to make the most of it for sure. Yeah, I'm with you. Like I said, the Bengals. It's crazy. The Bengals are just crazy. Joe Burrow's having the season of his life. The season of his career so far. Yeah. He's leading. I think in 2 of the 3. Typical. I think most pass yards, most pass touchdowns. They've got Jamar Chase, most receiving touchdowns. They've got Hendrickson, most sacks, and that team's got 4 wins. What are they, 4-8 or 4-9? It's mad, isn't it?
I've watched the team for a long time with a great defense and a poor offense, and for a while there, in the Ben days, a great offense and a really bad defense. We were rolling out some real nobodies at cornerback for a long time, but this I'd never seen anything like it. I've never seen a bigger disparity between an offense that's just fantastic and a defense that just lets them down every single drive.
Yeah, it's quite conjuring. Big expectations for Bengals, and of course they've not made up to them. I was certainly big on the Bengals as well. I thought they were going to have a great year, but alas, not to be. Hopefully this is continues.
This is why, and I don't mean to rub it in for Bengals fans, or maybe I do a little bit. This is why you build a team and not just a quarterback.
There you go. Yeah, you need more around him for sure. Thanks very much, Simon, for your picks. So, yeah, you're on the Steelers -6.5 as your favourite. Bears +4 as your underdog. Bengals Cowboys over 49.5, and Falcons Vikings under 45.5. It'll come out at somewhere around 12-1. So best of luck. We were really wanting a guest to nail the 4-fall. It's going to come. It's going to happen soon enough, and fingers crossed it's you, Simon, to break that duck. Just around, Simon is of course from the UK Steelers podcast. You can follow at UK Steelers Pod. You can follow Simon at Cy Wrote This. Simon, just tell us what you've got coming up for the rest of the season for the UK Steelers Pod, and where can we get the podcast? Where can we download it from?
Yeah, man, absolutely. Yeah, if you can handle my dulcet tones a little bit further, then it's way more than just a Steelers podcast. Obviously, in season we're focused on the games, but we talk a lot. I've mentioned this to you before, Paul. We talk a lot of nonsense. We're big on kebab fillings. All kinds of various assorted lunacy over there. So, and the big thing is as well for your listeners is if you're interested in the draft, you're interested in the guys that are going to be big for betting and fantasy in the coming years. I think that's what we do best, to be honest. I think we're great on draft coverage. We do a week on every position so that you'll at least get into that draft. Maybe you're not kind of a daily draft head, but we want a bit of an idea. We do a position, an episode on every position before the draft. We guarantee that. So. Come along and listen, share your thoughts about some of the draft picks as we get into the postseason. Maybe we won't have time this year, Paul. Maybe we'll be going to the Super Bowl, so we'll have a bit of a shortened draft
season. Cut those weeks down, yeah.
But follow the show, all the usual places at UK Steelers Pod on Twitter. We're on Spotify, Apple, all the usual stuff. So, yeah, come follow us, give us a shout, drop us a message.
Excellent. Thanks for coming on, Simon. Really appreciate it. And hopefully we'll have you on during the playoffs as well. So if you obviously get rolling in the playoffs, you'll be on for one of our preview episodes for the playoffs. And also, you've just given me a great idea for one of our off-season drafts that we do when we don't talk football. We just talk random subjects. The good teams and great teams cover kebab fillings draft. And
kebab filling. Hey, maybe
if we do that, I was
going to say, yep. Yeah, maybe there's a couple of us that'll come on for that one because we got some strong thoughts on that.
Yeah, that's a good one. I'll have that to our list for our off-season subjects. But thanks for coming on. Appreciate it, and best luck to the Pittsburgh Steelers for the rest of the season. We're going to move on with the remainder of our show. It's the regular picks and preview. So we're going to talk about the Sky games, prime time games, give you some fantasy game day tips, and also complete our 4-fall challenge with our picks for the week. Thanks, I will see you soon, buddy.
Yep, awesome. Thanks so much, Dolly.
Thanks to Simon Winstanley there once again from the UK Steelers podcast. And make sure you go give those guys a follow at UK Steelers Pod for all things Pittsburgh Steelers and kebab filling debates as well, which has sparked a great idea for a good teams win, great teams cover off-season draft. And good luck to the Steelers, of course, the rest of the way. We're going to continue our episode with our usual picks and preview element. We're going to look at the Sky games. We've got 2 crackers on Sky this week. Sunday night, Monday Night Football. We're going to do our 4-fall challenge, rest of our ATS picks, and our fantasy game day tips. Joining me, as always, I say as always, I skipped out last week, but Byron and Joe with me. Gents, how are we both doing?
Yeah, we're always here. Yeah,
Hang on,
good,
Joe,
yeah.
Joe missed a month.
I'm always here.
I had a legitimate reason that I was going back to see family. You just got a bit too had a bit too many jars at a Christmas party to miss two consecutive podcasts. So, you know.
Well, one was an extra one. Let's not make it out like I didn't miss
That wasn't an
preview
extra one,
review.
It was necessary.
All right.
It was Thanksgiving. You don't set the
look.
calendar.
Look, I'm back. I've done 2 in a row now. You can leave me alone. Yeah. Where was it? Yeah, Joe, how are you doing after Byron's just unnecessary digs?
Yeah, I'm doing good. You know, last week of buys, so so it's going to be all guns blazing going forward. It's been a weird week. There's a few dud matches, but you know, it's NFL. I'm sure in a couple of months we'll be complaining that there's none at all. So enjoy it while it's here.
Yeah, I think we've got like 2 absolute standout games, and then just a bit where I think there could be a lot of chaos this week. So usually makes for good red zone and good slate. We're still at 3 games late. Still there at 3. Just never gonna learn, I guess. I think this is it. They were just gonna be stuck with 3 games late. But potentially a couple of good games in there as well. Yeah. Well, let's start them with the first Sky game we're gonna preview. Kirk Cousins revenge game. This is one we certainly shouted out in our revenge game episode. That was when we were looking for stuff to do, wasn't it? Back in the summer after the schedules were released. Falcons are 5.5 point underdogs. Over under is 45.5, and Kirk Cousins is going back to Minnesota. How are we feeling about this one? Kirk obviously had such a bad week last week.
He really did, yeah. The Penix debate has been out in force this week. I was saying it on our review Monday. I was tweeting about it, or Blue Sky in posting about it on Sunday as well. It looks like the time should be coming, but despite that, my bet of the game is Kirk Cousins to have 2 or more pass touchdowns. Just kind of on the revenge game narrative, he's due a good game. My goodness, he's due a good game. And again, this is purely narrative and in my own head a little bit here, but I seem to think the more times I think Brian Flores is going to cook this guy, it doesn't really end up happening. I think Flores, don't want to be too extreme, but it's almost a little bit like the Kingsbury of DCs, where it's the start of the season is so hot, and then it seems like it tails off a little bit. Again, I don't have the numbers in front of me to back this up. It's been a busy work week, I'm afraid, so I am just going hot takey here, but I don't know. It feels like there's been a few games recently where I'm like, oh yeah, he's going to cook against Caleb Williams. And Caleb Williams had his best game to that point of his career. So yeah, again, I'm kind of thinking they're going to get pressure on Cousins. He can't move. So I'm just going to flip it in my head and go I think Cousins is going to have a good game. I think this could be closer than it's projected to be 5.5. I'm going Falcons against the spread to cover. Not sure about straight up, but to cover. Vikings always seem to play these close games where they should do better and just don't. Or games where we don't expect them to do so well, they just keep it close and win anyway. But it's always close, it feels like. So yeah, I've gone Kirk for the 2+ passing touchdowns, and I can't wait to see this revenge game. I think this was the one we had all season, I think, as the highlight. Maybe Russ going to Denver was probably up there as well. But yeah, this feels like a real good one.
Yeah.
Would you call it a revenge game?
Oh, yeah.
It just feels a weird one. He got paid quite handsomely in Minnesota. And it feels like Russ forced him out and there was a lot of bad blood. I'm not quite sure about this Kirk Cousins one, but it is still a revenge. He wants to show them.
Yeah, they said we don't want you anymore. You're not worth the money. You're never going to get us over the hump. That's right, but I think it also helps that Kirk Cousins, for your point, doesn't seem a vengeful man.
Yeah.
He seems very good and Christian and holy. But I'm striking vengeance on behalf of him. He was disrespected.
I can't imagine him doing what Judy does and he's going to run for a TD and just doing all this kind of stuff. What Judy did on Monday, I can't see Kirk Cousins doing that. He's probably going to say he's going to do what they do in soccer when they score against their old team and they apologise to the fans. I wonder if it's going to be the first NFL player to do that. I wonder if Kirk would do that.
What if he pulls out the full Emmanuel Adebayo for City against Arsenal? Yeah, and I think there is a bit. Cause like I said, I think there's like they had the opportunity to keep him, didn't they? If they'd have offered him, he'd have definitely stayed. Like I don't think he had any particular desire to leave, but yeah. So they're probably the nicest revenge game.
I was going to say, and it's one of them, I think he would have them releasing him. He got more money as well, just because I don't think the Vikings were ever going to pay him that much with the injury and what they'd seen. So I think they actually helped him out by releasing him. That he probably would have. He got a lot bigger contract then.
Yeah, then he would have got. Yeah, that's fair. I think for me, it's an interesting point on the Flores piece, because I think there could be an opportunity for Kirk to pick apart the Vikings here a little bit. Taking some, especially when you mentioned there, kind of what Caleb Williams was kind of able to do, especially in the second half of that game. Someone who's so inexperienced relative, and I know Kirk can't move, but what he has done, he's seen everything. And I think the Vikings, an element of them being so blitz heavy is how many different blitzes have you got? Because you've kind of shown everything, I think, by this point. I think the blitz on 38% of Vikings defense blitz on 38% of plays. So I think almost 5% clear of the next team. So yeah, there's almost how many disguises can you get? Are you really going to be able to fool Kirk? I don't know. I don't think so as much. And I'd like the under in this one a little bit. The Vikings have not looked great in the last maybe month or so. Been struggling. I know they've won 5 in a row, but I don't think it's not been as crisp and clean offensively as it was earlier in the season before they dropped a couple of games. And I think with this one as well, they're both under teams. I think they're both 4-7. They played 11 games, or 4-8. Both 4-8 on the under so far this year. I think 46, which is in essence what it is a lot of points. I really like the under, and I've not bet it, but I'm very likely to bet the Falcons plus the 5.5 as well. I think because Vikings are just constantly involved in close games, aren't they? It's just their MO. It's just what they do over the last few years. 5 of the 6 Vikings home games this season have been 1-score games. So if you can give me 5.5 points, I'll take it. I mean, it can still be a 1-score game, and the Vikings can cover it. But I like my chances at 5.5. And Falcons on the road as well when they're an underdog, 8-2 as an under. Under hits 8-2 in the last 10 Falcons road games. So I like low scoring, which plays into the plus 5.5. And I like the Falcons to keep it close.
Yeah, I think I'm the opposite of you guys. I've got the Vikings winning this. And I think they'll be comfortable. Like you did say that Kirk might be able to see everything. He couldn't see his wide receivers last week because he kept throwing it to the Chargers defense. And I think Flores has definitely pulled back on the blitz in the last few weeks, but he did it a lot against Kyler Murray last week, and Kyler doesn't do well against the blitz. And I think Kirk's a completely different quarterback to him, but I think they can get to him. I think if the Chargers could, I can see this Vikings team doing the same. It worries me that the Falcons defense actually turned up last week. They did say after the bye, the head coach was like, it's going to be a completely different defense coming in, and they got 5 sacks, which was they had 10 before the game, and they got 5 in that game. Which one I think is that the Falcons defense being good, or is that just the Chargers O-line not playing well? And I think this Vikings team, that O-line is doing well. Obviously, they had a few injuries, but they managed to get a few players in, and it's suddenly stabilized. So I think that they could cut this Falcons team. I think it could be I don't think it's going to be suddenly Vikings destroy them from the beginning, but I think they can just pull away. And then, Cousins has this thing where when he's like the big expectations is there, or like the spotlight's on him because he's going back to the Vikings, it feels like a kind of player who doesn't respond well to that. And could this be the last week where if he has another terrible game, is that when it ramps up with the Michael Penix, when it's no longer in the first position of the NFC South? It's an interesting one. Just some facts about Kirk Cousins. That, weirdly enough, he struggles indoors. Over the last 5 years, he's 16-30 against the spread. And as an underdog since 2022, he is 3-9 against the spread, 2-10 straight up, which is the 4th worst mark of any quarterback during that span. So weirdly, as an underdog and playing indoors, he's not great at covering the spread. And obviously he's both at this point. So I'm going to Vikings. My bet, I was hoping to find some specials. I did message you guys. I think the Vikings are going to at least get 5 sacks in this game, or look at how many fumbles Kirk Cousins has, because it's not just the interceptions, it's everything. But we couldn't find any of them bets. So I've got Jalen Naylor anytime touchdown scorer, plus 350. I think they're going to try and spread the ball around. Obviously, a lot of attention to go on Justin Jefferson, and Addison's been playing better, but Jalen Naylor's been getting some targets the last few weeks. And at plus 350, I think that's a nice anytime touchdown scorer where, yeah, I think this Vikings team could throw on this Falcons team with Sam Darnold, who's, yeah, I think he's come back to the mean a little bit. And, but he ended last week really well. And I think he could do the same. And yeah, and just sorry, my last point as well, which is it's a weird game that the fact that the Vikings are 7 in our power rankings and the Falcons are 21, but it feels like a tighter game than that. It's like a 14 position gap. It's it's a weird one. It's a big one for both teams, but especially the Falcons with how they've done the last few weeks.
Yeah, I kind of feel like if the Falcons drop this one and the Bucs overtake them, because if the Falcons lose, the Bucs win, the Bucs go to the top of the NFC South. I don't think the Bucs are going to give that up from there. I don't think that's going to flip back and forth between the two down the stretch. Like they've lost 3 in a row. The Falcons, sorry, from 6-3 and everything's been going pretty well to 6-6, and even with the fact that you beat the team home and away, sat behind you, they can overtake you this week. I just think it's massive that they, obviously the Bucs they both could lose, and we could just be, they could both be 7-6. But I think this is a massive one this week in terms of the Falcons just really need to arrest this slide and just try and get something going. And that's why I just like them to keep it close. I don't know if it's going to be enough to win the game or win the game outright, because again, the Vikings come out on top so often in these close games. But I think 5.5 is a lot of points. So yeah, I do like the Falcons to keep it close. And you mentioned there, Joe. I mean, has it been 4 games since Cousins threw a touchdown? He's definitely due, to Byron's point there with his bet. Late game, Bills Rams in LA. I don't know why I said LA like that. In LA. Bills minus 4.5. Over unders 49.5. Last week, the Bills secured the AFC East. We're doing Snow Angels to celebrate, and now they're heading to sunnier climates in LA. How are we liking this matchup going?
I think this is a really good matchup. I think it's a really tough one to call. I think if this was in Buffalo, it'd be a lot easier to call, but it'd also be a lot more than 4.5 points, I'm pretty sure. The Rams, I think, are so inconsistent that you don't quite know what you're going to get any given week. Struggled past the Saints, got dealt pretty handedly by the Eagles, beat the Patriots, got beat by the Dolphins. When they're on, they're not going to say as good as anyone in the NFL, but they're certainly like a playoff caliber team. But when they're not, they just look really woeful. So I think a lot of it comes down to what Rams team turns up here. I've got another 2+ passing touchdowns as my bet of the day, which is Matthew Stafford to have his 2+ passing touchdown. I think the Bills to some degree have been a little, I don't want to say lucky, because that's a bit disrespectful, but a little fortunate in this run of 7-8 wins in a row that they've played Mahomes, who's not having his best season. They played Tua coming back from injury. They played Geno Smith, one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. But other than that, it's not been a murderer's row. Aaron Rodgers, Will Levis, Anthony Richardson. And I love Brock Purdy. And I think for the most part, until about 4 or 5 weeks ago, he was having a great season. But, he couldn't do it in the snow, and he can't do it with no players, So, again, the Bills are far from have been lucky, but I think they've had a nice run of quarterback matchups for the most part. I think Stafford, with Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp fully fit, are going to be more in position to take advantage of that. I think they're going to sling the ball an awful lot. I don't think it's going to be a Kyren Williams game or a Blake Corum game getting in there. I think this is going to be a chuck it game, which I think bodes really well, because you want to see Josh Allen having to play hero ball and having to play catch up, ideally, because that's what we get as best viewing. I think I'll probably, I'll have leaned the Rams as my ATS as well.
Interesting. Joe, kind of how you feeling it's going? Gonna go?
Yeah, I'm against Byron again. I think this Bills team, especially on offense, has been so impressive. I know, like you said, they've not been playing gauntlet teams, but they're only the fifth team since 2000 to be on a 6-game win streak where they've scored 30 plus points. And it's not that, it's not that easy to do. Obviously, there's only 5 teams that do it. And I think they're one of them weird teams where they're going under the radar, but they're not. Like how impressive this offense been. Like when you just look at the score, I don't think they've scored less than 20. I think the lowest is 23. And they've only had only 2 games where they've scored under 30 in all this year. I mean, sorry, yeah, under 30, yeah. And so I think they've been really impressive. I think Josh Allen has been, he's certainly the MVP front runner from my point of view. And I'm just not impressed with this Rams team, even with with the 2 wide receivers coming back from injury. There's just something about them what I'm just not a fan of, where they struggle against a Saints team, which you should be beating a Saints team who have struggled all year. They feel like they struggle against these poor teams, and that's why I think they're a middling team, because where the Bills have been absolutely destroying these bad teams, the Rams haven't, and they've been struggling. And they struggle so much in like the first quarter, first half. They always seem to take some time to get going, and I don't think they can do it against this Bills team. That's why I've got my bet is James Cook, 125 plus Russian receiving yards at plus 500, because I can see this Bills team getting up like 10-0, 14-0. And then the Rams are in, chuck it mode, like you said, which helps your bet. But I think they'll just lean on James Cook to run this ball. I was tempted by the 150 mark, because that is, what is the odds? It's plus 1200, but I just threw in for plus 125 at plus 500. And he's been around that most this year. I think James Cook's been one of the best running backs. And I think they can run on this Rams team, and they can certainly do a lot of dumps off and him eat some yards up. Yeah, I'm leaning towards the Bills. And I know you'll read. I don't know if you read your bet out, Paul, but it'll be nice to know that they've gone down to minus 3.5, where it's moved by a point, which I was surprised at, to be honest. Just I thought more people would put on the Bills. But yeah, obviously the betting public have started leaning the Rams, and that's why it's moved a point.
Look, with where we're at, obviously might be the more money's coming, but obviously when I looked at it earlier on, 71% of the bets and 91% of the money's on the Bills. It was at minus 4.5 at that point. So yeah, I know some of the movers and shakers there must have been backing the Rams, but yeah, I'm on the Bills at minus 4.5. I think I agree with you, the Rams struggling against kind of mediocre and bad teams, I think is kind of what made me think the Bills might just go and absolutely kill them here. The Bills are 4-0 straight up and ATS at the Rams, LA/St. Louis, since 1995. Rams also not great at covering at home. They're 2-4 against the spread at home this season. So yeah, I'm going to take the Bills. And I think they'll again get somewhere around 30 points. I just don't think the Rams are flying that much where they're going to be able to kind of keep up in that, to that kind of level. I think Kincaid and Coleman look like they're going to be back. They've missed a couple of weeks for the Bills, so Josh Allen's getting a couple of weapons back, and kind of return of Milano on defense. I think has been, and he's going to play more and more. Just trying to make sure he's obviously primed for the playoffs. He's a big part of this defense as well. So yeah, I think the Rams might struggle here. And again, this could be the one where we could get to the end of Sunday and the Rams are 2 games behind the Seahawks with 4 to go.
And I think what's big as well is that
going to be a struggle. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think Amari Cooper's been on more snap counts and he's been playing bigger players. I think he's going to have a bigger game, and I think getting him more and more involved as the season goes on is going to be huge. And I think there could be some picks going. And I was just looking at some facts about this is more the money line, so straight up, but it's still crazy when so Josh Allen is 29-4 straight up against any teams under 500. Usually winning by 13 points per game. Stafford as an underdog since the Super Bowl run, he's gone 3-15 straight up as a dog, and he's 31-80 as an underdog in his whole career, which is like nuts. And since 22, Stafford is the 3rd worst QB in money line profit ahead of 2 other quarterbacks. Do you want to have a guess who the 2 other quarterbacks are?
He's the third worst, did you say?
Yeah.
In moneyline profit since 22.
Yeah. I'll give you a clue. They're both fairly young. Well, they're both only been drafted in the last couple of years. No, but his replacement,
Mac Jones.
Yeah.
Mac Jones is one, and the other one is the other one's Bryce Young.
Oh, yeah, well, that makes sense.
See, if they're the 2 quarterbacks who's under you when you're underdogs, it's it's a weird Stafford fact. When I read it, I was like, oh. Are you expecting he was an underdog quite a lot at the Lions as well? So
yeah, the majority of his career for sure. Shout out on the depth of research you've done this week, Joe. You're taking us to another level this week. You had some free time this week.
I've just this nice little website's just giving me all these interesting facts. I shout them out.
Oh
well, you say you shout them out.
You shout them out and didn't.
You shout out that you used a website.
Yeah, I'm shouting out that I've actually, it's Action Network if anyone wants to use it. It's really good with the betting lines and the past history and how everything looks. But
shout out the guys at Action Network. Thanks for helping make our show even more insightful.
I don't have that level of research, obviously. But Paul, you mentioned the Bills are 4-0 since 1995, playing at the Rams, wherever that might be. Lifetime, though, they are 4-1. The Rams have beat them once at home. That was on November 27th, 1983. Obviously, Joe, a little before my time, and I'm the oldest here. But it's a classic 80s bop, so I figure we might have a swing at it. What was the UK number 1? I'll also give you both points if you get the US or Australia number 1, because all 3 of them are bops.
Okay. 83.
November 27, 83, yeah.
Guessing it's like classic 80s, yeah?
All 3 are classic 80s, yeah.
Okay, cool.
If you get any of them, you get a shout.
I will go...
Can I guess? I'll go Bee Gees. Let's go Staying Alive.
Incorrect. It's not the Bee Gees.
Surely that's 70s, no?
Yeah, it's probably late 70s. Yeah. Good point.
Give me Human League. Don't you want me, baby?
Nice.
I sure don't, baby. But good shout, but incorrect. So the UK number 1 was Billy Joel, Uptown Girl.
Oh yeah, classic.
The US and Canada's was Lionel Richie, All Night Long. And Australia's was Culture Club, Karma Chameleon. What a week for number 1.
Yeah, it's absolute 80s staples for sure.
But yeah, that's last time and only time the Rams have beat the Bills in their home stadium. So delighted to have the Rams as my ATS here.
Excellent, good stuff. Any more on Bills Rams before we move on?
Not for me, Joe.
No, that was the end of it. Cool. Sunday Night Football then. We've got an AFC West matchup. Chiefs win the division, don't they, this week? So yeah, Chiefs hosting the Chargers. Chargers are 4-point underdogs. Over/under is 43. I'm just going to go out straight away. Under. Chargers are an unders team. Chiefs a bit more balanced this year, but Chiefs home games, they've had a kind of big run of under home games. I like Chiefs Chargers under 43 here. Just deep, Chiefs defense offense isn't exactly firing. Chargers really struggled on offense last week. Chiefs D line is obviously its major strength. They're already struggling. There's no J.K. Dobbins. They're barely going to be able to run the ball. I think the Chargers are going to really struggle to move the ball, and the Chiefs just haven't been covering themselves in glory on offense. And Chargers secondary has been doing okay as well. So yeah, I just think this would be a real low scoring kind of battle of the trenches, I think.
Yeah, it's hard to disagree. And also, I'm not sure if you touched on it there, but like the Chiefs' offensive line issues seem to be getting worse and worse by the week. They ended last week, I think, with Joe Tooney, the left guard at left tackle, which obviously breaks up the partnership with Creed Humphrey inside. But the left tackle can't defend, can't pass block, so it's a fair issue. Joe, I think you mentioned it on the review show. It's getting to the point of being like the Super Bowl versus Bucks. It might be you, Paul. I can't remember. Somebody mentioned it. Yeah, it was you. Sorry. Where Patrick Jones can do whatever he wants, but if you can't stay upright, then it doesn't much matter. So, yeah, I think the under's a nice bet here. I didn't take it, but I think it makes perfect sense, especially Lad McConkey is practicing in sweatpants right now. Well, not right this moment, but like today. So he isn't a full go yet. I imagine he'll play because it doesn't seem to be a serious injury, but you'd like him to be like full go by now, Thursday, with the game Sunday, certainly. And yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Again, we touched on it in the review show of the Chargers run attack without J.K. Dobbins. Gus Edwards is a tank in all the wrong ways. I still
we'll call him now the Gus Tank instead of the Gus Bus.
Yeah. Yeah, the bus is really feels bulkier than ever.
Double
decker. Haskins is just a guy. He's never going to be anything more than that. He might fall into the end zone here and there, so might Gus Edwards, but there's no like chain mover. I'm still intrigued by Kamani Vidal as like the most pure athlete they have at running back, but I think until you can see him getting 10 carries, it's hard to get excited. I do think he's got the ability to pop, but against his Chiefs rush defense, what does that really mean for him to get 10 carries and pop in this game? I think the under's a nice bet. I have gotten Noah Gray anytime touchdown plus 360, just as the best value of the Chiefs pass catchers. I don't think it's going to be, like I say, huge scoring, but I think Noah Gray's shown a tendency to get into the end zone this season. And, if Kelsey gets doubled up, if Hopkins isn't getting a high snap count, which, again, it seems to be going down as the season goes on, saving him for the playoffs, I just think Noah Gray makes so much sense as a touchdown target here.
Nice. Joe, what's your bet for the game? How do you think it's gonna play out?
Yeah, I think this is one I struggled with the most. Just because Vegas has got the perfect line -4. I think it was like any higher. So I've led the Chiefs on IATS, which I'm not too strong with because they've gone, I think it's 6 in a row where they've been on a losing streak against the spread, the Chiefs. If it was 3, I'd be a lot more pleased. If it was 5, I would have lent the Chargers. So it's like a perfect mark. I'm not quite sure. And it's more because, I've been disappointed with the Chargers the last few weeks. This offense is not showing up. Obviously with the injuries. Yeah, Lad McConkey is literally all they've got. And obviously he's their true number 1 right now. But I don't know with his body type if you want him to be a number 1 continuous throughout the season, because I feel like every game he's gone down hobbling, or he's hobbling at the for most of the players, or he's going out injured and did last week. And it looks like he's playing again, but you don't really want that with your number 1 receiver. And when no one else is doing much, it's a struggle. My bet, I've gone Mahomes over 20 rush yards at plus 115. So I think it is going to be a tight game. And it's going to come down to near the end. And I can just see Mahomes doing one of them things where, Joey Bosa, it looks like he's going to sack him, and Mahomes managed to sneak out and get 15, 20 yards down the side. So plus 115, I do like that. But yeah, I'll give you some more facts. It's after looking at it, I'm like, why have I gone the Chiefs? So probably looked at it beforehand. So this works out for you. So Mahomes against the AFC West, he struggles against the spread. He's 0-3-1 this year. And in the last 3 years, he's 4-10-1 against the spread mark, which is the worst for any quarterback in the NFL over that span within division. So that's not great. What was the other one?
That's not great.
and Herbert as an underdog is 10-1 against his spread in his pro career, and he seems to cover quite a lot against the Chiefs, which makes sense when you see both stats. But I'm sure the spread is usually slightly higher, slightly wider. So I've just had the Chiefs. I feel like it's got to stop eventually, this spread. But I feel like every week I say that and I'm constantly wrong. But yeah, I think it's going to be a close game and a low-scoring game. I do like the under as well. That's probably where I'll be going as well. It feels a very unders game where both offenses are not firing and the defense is a lot better. And I also see a huge game for Chris Jones. I feel like he's been a bit quiet this year, but the Chargers in interior linemen are probably struggling the worst. So I can see Herbert getting a lot of pressure in his face, and I feel like it's time for Chris Jones on a Sunday night football to show his worth again, because it's getting to that point of the season where he suddenly comes out and reminds everyone, oh, he is the best defensive tackle in the league.
Yeah.
So I don't think it has been this
showing
year.
up. Yeah, this is when you start showing up and showing out down the stretch when it matters and into the playoffs for sure. Yeah, I love the Chargers as well for all the reasons you've just told us, Joe, in the stats. But Chargers have covered 3 of the last 4 at Arrowhead or whatever we call that stadium now. So yeah, I really like the Chargers to keep it. Again, I wouldn't be surprised they were starting Chiefs win by 3. Whether that's the Chargers going down with a chance to tie and fluffing the lines, or I think this is going to be the last week without Harrison Butker, so the replacement kicker kicking one last game-winning field goal. So yeah, I think it'll be close. I think probably a field goal game. That's why I like the Chargers +4. And again, just to highlight the unders hit the last 3 meetings in KC, and unders hit 8 and 2 in the Chargers' last 10 road games. So
I'm curious how Pacheco plays this game. I think he's massive for how their Super Bowl run. I think if he gets firing, and obviously had last week his first games, and they might turn into that kind of team did last year, where it was run first and then Mahomes does the thing off that. Another thing, you can't really do that with Hunt for the full game. So I think Pacheco coming back, and if he looks like he did last year, then that's huge.
Yeah, excellent good stuff. Any more on Chargers Chiefs before we move to Monday Night Football? No, well, let's move to Monday Night Football. The Simpsons game. Yay. That'd be the only thing that keeps us interesting. No, I just it probably should be a points fest, but we'll see. Monday Night Football, Bengals -5.5 at Dallas Cowboys. Over-unders 49.5 on this one. I'm on the over. I think even the Cowboys are going to be able to score points on this Bengals defense. It's that bad. And obviously, Burrow is having an incredible season. Chase is scoring touchdowns left, right, and center. I'm expecting points in this one. And also give the ESPN guys the opportunity to use all them animations that they've put together, or whoever's done it for the Simpsons stuff, because it'd be a waste if it's like a 10-3 game, wouldn't it?
Yeah. If they don't make Mike McCarthy like Chief Wiggum, then they've done something wrong.
And Jerry's Mr. Burns, obviously, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Good stuff. Right, Joe, you start us off then. What's your bet for Monday Night Football?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a big game for Jamar Chase. I've had a few of these with Jamar Chase, and quite a few hit where he scored more than 1 touchdown. So I've got Chase having 2+ touchdowns, and I've also added on him getting 100 receiving yards at +550. I was really just going to do the 2 touchdowns, but I feel like one of them is going to be a big one, because it feels like he, some of the quite a few touchdowns as some really long ones. So it makes sense that if he does get the 2 touchdowns, he's probably hitting that around that 100 receiving yards, and a +550 adds a little bit more extra cash onto that. So yeah, I'm similar to you as well. I think it's going to be over. I think it's going to be an exciting game. Because the Bengals defense can't stop anything. Literally, it was embarrassing how much the Steelers, how many points and how easy it was. It felt like they were running similar plays non-stop, and Najee Harris was just running up the gut. And it's finally going to be the closing curtains for them, I think. And Lou Amorito getting fired end of the year. So it's going to be an exciting game. It's I think it's all the Cowboys defense. I think they'll be the ones who, if it is a rubbish game, they've spoiled it basically.
Yeah, I mean, Cowboys give up 360 yards offense per game. The Bengals give up 370 yards offense per game. I just can't see anything else but points. Both give up exactly 28.3 points per game as well. So if that's the case,
if Cooper Rush gets 28 points, though, that would be embarrassing for the Bengals. I think that'd be a bit more embarrassing than last week.
Yeah, but look, I don't Cooper Rush gets a lot of stick. What was he, 7-3 as a starter in the NFL? How many 70% winning quarterbacks do you know of, Joe?
Not many, but
there we go.
Sometimes stats ain't everything. Watch the tape.
Watch the tape. Byron, what do you like for this one?
Points. I mean, everything Joe just said basically. My bet of the game is Chase, Higgins, and CeeDee Lamb all to score touchdowns +850. A little worried about CeeDee Lamb's fitness this game. Just his shoulder. I would understand to a degree if you want to shut it down and get, not elevate it any further, or not, push it any more than you need to because the season's dead. But again, we say this a lot. Like, these are professional guys. They have a lot of pride. They want to go out and play. So as long as all three of these go out and play, I don't really see much of an issue with this hitting. But it's plus to 850 for a reason. I did love. Did you see Mike Tomlin's quote about T. Higgins this week? Asked about Joey Porter had 6 flags against him on T. Higgins last week, and Mike Tomlin was asked about it, and he said, "When we play Shaq, we're going to use our fouls." T. Higgins is fucking good. Like, I know he misses too many games for people to properly love him, especially as a fantasy player, but man, I'm worried if I'm going to say something stupid, but they were a better number 2 wide receiver in the NFL? I'm trying to think of who would be up there. Devonta Smith, Devonta Adams, I guess, on paper, but not this year. I wonder how much money he's going to get. There's a part of me thinks that the Bengals might tag him again and just pay like the 27-ish million. It's a lot of money. It's a 1-year deal, and he'll certainly be gone the next year. But when he's been out there this year, he's been so good.
I can see the Panthers getting him, giving him as much money as possible. Like a team like that.
As long as he hits the market, he's going to get. He's going to get a Brinks truck though. Like,
do you think if he goes somewhere there was a 1, because I guess you would do obviously with that money, he's getting paid. Like, is he going to be as good as a 1?
I don't know. You're not going to know until he gets there. I think that's the kind of thing, because it's hard to tell because there's been, like, it's happened both sides where a number 2 and you think, oh, he's going to be an easy number 1, and you realize, oh no, we've just got another number 2 and we're struggling.
Yeah. And I think it also, it depends on who is the number 2. Like, I've seen someone, not I want to say tout, but like theorize of him as like the number 1 to like Lad McConkey, and then McConkey is a 2, and I absolutely love that as a pairing.
Yeah.
But if you go to New England and your number 2 is Demario Douglas or Keyshawn Booty or Jalen Coker in Carolina, it's like, no, I don't love that so much, because how could you? So T. Higgins was the 1 as a rookie, and I'm trying to think how he did. He was like good, but not great. I'm just looking up on his fantasy points there. He was 28 wide receiver for the season, so like mid wide receiver 3, so not terrible certainly as a rookie. And he's obviously a better player now than then. But yeah, having Jamar Chase there obviously helps an awful lot, and it is a bit of a spoil for riches. I can understand why they wouldn't pay him on another tag, because it's a huge amount of money and they clearly have work to do. But it must be tempting to be like, we'll patch up the defense somehow and just keep chasing Higgins here 1 more year, go all in again next year and see what comes of it. You'd be tempted, or I would be tempted. And I just wanted to say, Cooper Rush, his last 2 games, has got 30.5 points per game. So let's slow down on the slander.
On the Cooper Rush. There's one just sad note, I think. Matt McCarthy announced earlier today that Zach Martin's going to undergo season-ending surgery on his injured ankle. That's probably Martin done as a Cowboy, possibly done, full stop. And it's sad way to end, because he's been so consistently good for so long in the NFL. I think we'll go down certainly as one of the Dallas Cowboys' best offensive linemen, best guards, and just the level he played at. Because I thought there's definitely 3-4 year span where I think he was the undisputed best guard in the NFL, with nobody close to him. And obviously it's just injuries have caught up with him, and sadly he's been real bad this year. But I think it's just because he's so beat up. But yeah, sad to see it come to an end for Zach Martin like that, because he's been an incredible servant for the Cowboys.
Yeah, and it's 2 years in a row as well. Like Tyron Smith, one of the best tackles I've ever seen. And it's end of an era, really. Those two. Heading off into the sunset.
Kind of that Martin, Frederick,
Yeah.
Tyron Smith trio that was so dominant. But yeah, it's got to be one that the Cowboys need to rebuild again and just replenish that whole line and kind of start again really with it, which hopefully they'll do starting in the draft next year. But plenty of needs for the Cowboys. But yeah, over 49.5 for me in this one, and we've got a couple of great wide receiver bets.
You want me to give my fact for this?
Go for it, Joe.
Well, I know this game, but more the Bengals themselves. So teams this season who scored 30 plus points at 80-7 straight up. And out of the 7, 4 of them are the Bengals. So yeah, if you take out the Bengals, 80 and 3, which is nuts.
Madness. Yeah.
It just shows how bad this defense is. And there's them. I don't know. I've seen them all over the internet where Buzz has 30 pass TDs and 5 interceptions through 12 games. 7 QBs have done with 30 plus and 5 or fewer, and the lowest record is 9-3, which was Rodgers in 2020-2014, and Buzz is 4-8. So.
Yeah, I think I'd seen this a couple of weeks ago where they'd done that, and I think these players with these stats, it's like Drew Brees, Rodgers, Brady, and Mahomes, and the worst record they had at the end of the season was like a 13-3, and these guys might not even win fucking 7 games. Like it's mad.
I'm surprised, and I'm not surprised with this game that 86% of the money has gone to the Bengals at -5.5, but all three of us have, yeah.
Cowboys have been real bad at home though as well, haven't they?
And
the Bengals, weirdly, even though obviously we're laughing at kind of how bad they've been, really good on the road. 5-1 ATS on the road this year. The Bengals, so they've covered more road games than they've won games. Full stop. And yeah, Cowboys are 2-8 against the spread in the last 10 home games. Cowboys have won the last 5 versus the Bengals, going 4-1 ATS, but obviously they only play once every 4 years. Last 4 meetings have hit the under between the two. I don't think that's going to be the case this time. And the most points scored in those games was 42. Obviously over under 49.5. And this, we've got a music related one. That's what I was getting to. Cowboys are 5-1 all time at home against the Bengals. The Bengals' sole win came in November 1988. As we're in December now, what was the UK Christmas number 1 in 1988?
Shakin' Stevens.
It wasn't. Joe?
Cliff Richard.
It was.
Which one would it be? Saviour's Day.
No, Mistletoe.
Mistletoe Line. Yeah. Well, they're both classics. Out here in Canada, no one knows them Christmas songs.
Same.
Shakin' Stevens and
Cliff Richards. Yeah, they're the 2 Cliff Richard bangers, Christmas bangers.
Wild.
Yeah.
No.
I know, just not educated in Christmas songs like we us Brits are.
Excellent. Right, let's move on. Let's make some educated picks. How about that? 4-4 draft. Yes, this is our segment where season-long challenge. We try and hit a roughly 12-1 bet every week that consists of 1 favourite, 1 underdog, 1 over, 1 under from the NFL slate. And Joe, you hit yours last week. Congratulations, Monday Night Football. The Broncos were 5.5 point favourites. You've got Jameis to thank for that, I think.
Honestly, that game was so open. I think I must have messaged in the group saying, well, Costa, it's not happening. Oh, it's back on again. Oh, no, just because, from, Denver having a huge Marvin Mims, which helped Byron's bet hit. I was like, oh, this is going to be comfortable. And then the next play by Jameis does the exact same to Judy, and then all up and down. Then Nick tries to do it again and puts it straight into Ward's hands. So it was a bit like, oh. And then when they kicked that field goal, because it was like when they had 4th and 1, I was like, the Broncos have got to go for it. I've lost that bet. And when I kicked the field goal, I thought, oh, that's it. I thought, only way I'm only going to win is if Jameis throws a interception touchdown, which he did the next play, and I was like, happy days. And then they got the ball back down to the 2-yard line, so I thought it's going to be a backdoor cover and it's going to screw me again. And throws another interception, which helped out because I had Winston 2+ interceptions as well. So it was a good game and ended really well for me. And 1.5 this year. Let's keep it rolling.
Byron, we need to get you off the schneid, mate.
I think this is the week. So
is this the week? I hope so.
I think so.
The more of these we hit, the better. And you can do it. I've got faith in you. Also, I know we talk a lot about Jameis because obviously he's just great. He's just great television, isn't he? He's incredible stuff. Whether it's his play on the field or his antics. His moments in front of the microphone, just the seemingly getting better by the week. His pre-game huddle, where he's like G'ing up. I think he's kind of predominantly with the old linemen. He's G'ing up, and then he was kind of starting his inspirational speech because it was Monday Night Football. He just burst into singing the Monday Night Football theme tune partway through his speech. And then his post-game press conference, I pray the Lord deliver me from pick sixes. Absolutely incredible stuff. yeah, he needs to be a starting quarterback. Long, I know he's a bit older now, but he needs to be a starting quarterback in the NFL for longer, because otherwise we are robbed of these moments, and they're just gold. So long may they continue. That's enough Browns talk. We talked about the Browns because of the Steelers game with Simon from UK Steelers Pod earlier, and you see his picks are on screen. If you're listening, you've already heard them. I've already got like a lot of my bets this week as well, so I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing with his picks. Byron, you're first up. What are you going to take to kick off the week 14 fourth-ball draft?
Oh, sorry. Let me have a look at the sheet we have. So, make sure I don't need to do something early that I didn't want to take early. Cool. I will take my favorite. I will take the Buccaneers at home against the Raiders -6.5. Gotta have it. Raiders on the road. Raiders had their Super Bowl on Thanksgiving, and they did really well in it, but I don't think it lasts again this week.
Yeah, I mean,
Antonio Pierce. Sorry.
No, go on, you're right.
I think Antonio Pierce done a real good job of getting them up for the Chiefs game. I'm not going to say maybe saved his job, but I think it was a really important game in terms of keeping the guys focused, keeping spirits high through the rest of the season. But I just think this is such a gimme, not a gimme, sorry, it's such a gotta-have-them game for the Bucs. Baker Mayfield's been playing real well. Not perfect last week, but over the season, certainly. We expect Mike Evans to get his 100-plus yards. Bucky Irving is playing close to, maybe not as good as any running back in the NFL, but he's getting towards the top 5 or 6, I would dare say, this last 3 or 4 weeks. And I do worry a little for Aidan O'Connell against Todd Bowles' incredibly blitz-heavy, blitz-happy scheme. O'Connell had a good game last week against the Chiefs, and again, fair play to him, but Todd Bowles, like Brian Flores, he loves to bring the heat. Could lead to some big matchups for Jacoby Myers and Brock Bowers, but if it doesn't, I think it could get ugly, and it could get ugly quickly. And then the Bucs have got the running back and like the rush game concepts to take this game away from you, whether it's Sean Tucker, whether it's Bucky Irving, whether it's Rashad White. They have really complementary skill sets. And I think, again, I think they'll try and lean on Bucky Irving as much as they can. I assume he'll lead in snaps again. But yeah, I think the Bucs take this one relatively comfortably.
Nice, good stuff. Bucs -6. Now, how much one where they made such a meal of that game last week against the Panthers? I know the Panthers have been playing better.
No, it's fair.
But kind of in a similar spot. And I know this is at home, not on the road. But
and I'm going to keep piling money on Evans getting all these yards as well, because I think they're going to keep targeting. I feel like, I know it's a 1,000 yard, but I feel like that's going to play into in not many games left. So I can see.
I think he's naturally going to get that. Obviously, with Godwin not being there as well, so he's naturally just going to get more of those kind of targets anyway. Because you're also kind of missing the other guy.
And the teams,
the
teams have got the rest of the year as well are not scary defenses. And I don't think the Raiders are. So
play the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday Night Football next week. What are you talking about?
It might be scary as a Dallas fan, but
more Cowboys on prime time. Fun.
Yeah, they'll never flex those games.
They'll even become Simpsons characters just to make sure they're locked in.
43.5 million goddamn people watch the Cowboys Giants on Thanksgiving.
Well, the TV was on anyway.
Right, Joe, you pick. Let's see.
I'm gonna go a favorite as well, just because I picked quite a lot of favorites this week. But I'm not confident in a lot of them. I think they're all pretty tough. So this one, it's a gamble, but I'm on a win streak, so why not? I'm going to Titans -3.5
I love it.
at home against the Jags. Will Levis. It's more because Matt Jones is playing.
He was awesome last week, though.
Yeah, I think their kind of quarterback are awesome when they come in and the defense haven't planned around them. He played when Trevor was injured, and he didn't. Yeah, he looked garbage. And I think this Titans defense has not been playing amazingly, and the special teams is absolutely shocking. I think it's like, I don't know, there's like a crazy stat. The difference between them and the 31st worst special team is the same gap between 31st and 12th in terms of like how many.
How has that special teams coach not been fired, by the way? Like, you'd have just binned him off like after a few weeks, wouldn't you? Like, he's all elements of it: punt block, return. It's just all a mess. Fire that guy. Like, I could do a better job, I think, as a special teams coach of the Titans. It's so bad.
And yeah, Mac Jones, he has a worse underdog record than Matthew Stafford. So
Exactly.
It's
There you
crazy.
go, Byron.
It's crazy that this Titans team are a favorite against anybody in it. It's just
it really is. I kind of double took it when I seen it, and then
I
seen
had to check as well.
Jaguars. I mean, so it's
And we did power rank the Titans 29 and the Jags 31, so there's a big two players gap, and I think that 2 players gap is going to cover. Yeah, exactly. I would have liked if it was 2.5 just to be a field goal, because I think it's tight, and it obviously being a division game, anything can happen. They're always weird, these games. But I think just the Titans are the better team. I think Will Levis has still got something to prove. They're playing for like a head coach who's still in his first year, so I think a lot of these players have got to prove something, and I still like that defense. I think they've hit on quite a lot of the rookie class. While the Jags just feels like a team who just wants the year to finish and to get rid of the head coach. Obviously, Trevor Lawrence looks like he's ruled out for the rest of the year, and I think a few of the players are just not bothered.
Lawrence is going to have surgery on a AC shoulder injury that he's had as well, so it's not just like it's the concussions the reason for it, but he's going to get surgery as well, so he's definitely done. Jaguars by far, I have to say by far, they give up the most yards, passing yards per game. No spoilers later, but I think it could be a good Will Levis game. Real opportunity to kind of get a big win. I think as well. I think the Titans could not only just beat the Jaguars, I think they could beat them bad as well. Like, and given kind of how rough their season's been and kind of the mistakes they've made, and like big confidence before Will Levis won it, and nice. Also, they own the Jaguars at home as well. The Titans have won 9 of the last 10 at home to the Jaguars, going 6-3-1 ATS as well. So I like the pick, Joe. Yeah, I think it's good.
I think also like Will Levis is fighting for his job. Like if he wins the game, he's getting away from the number 1 draft pick and that kind of thing. While the Jaguars are already set, so they'll probably go Hunter, and there's not as much that kind of pressure and that kind of, and I'm obviously King Henry's not there because against the Jags it's always like 99-yard touchdown. So let's see if Pollard can do the same and keep the tradition going of the Titans running back just absolutely destroying this Jags defense.
Stiff arming 7 of them on his way to the end zone. Yeah.
That I do not see Tony Pollard do. He might break into space. But I don't know if I've ever seen Tony Pollard stiff arm anybody to the ground. I love him as a player, but I'm not sure that's in his. He's no Marion Barber.
It's not his game, yeah. I'll take the unders. Sorry, Joe, it's gonna be a game that we've talked about, so I'll take one of the unders. It's one of the 2 that I've shouted out already. I'll go Chargers Chiefs. Probably just slightly more confident in that one than the other one. So I'll take Chargers Chiefs. I've already shouted this out. I always screw Joe like this by just picking games that we've talked about in the fourfold. So apologies for that, Joe.
And as well, Paul, you did that when you weren't even on the podcast as well. That's how perfect it was last week. Is that you carried on that tradition?
Sorry, mate. I think it's just one of the best unders on there. I've not got many. There's 2 that I'm confident in, and that's the one I'm most confident in. So, and they're both games we've already talked about. So, not a lot I could do there. And you've both taken your favourite, so I don't need to take the favourite till the end. Spoiler, it's also a game. I think all my picks are going to be games we've talked about, so I'm really, really sticking it to you here, Joe. And then, do I open up the underdogs or the overs? Because I don't need to do my favourite till the end. I will go. I'll open up the underdogs. I will go. Which one's my favorite? I'll take the Seahawks. I think the Cardinals have just kind of stopped really. I'll take the Seahawks plus 2.5. Byron, sorry, I know you'd have loved to have taken it. It was your top underdog, wasn't it?
It was on my short list.
How short was your underdog short list?
3.
All right, okay. I just think as much as I kind of like what the Cardinals have done earlier in the season, I just think they've kind of really, really, really kind of just come to a bit of a standstill. Not a coincidence that the drop off of the Cardinals has coincided with the release of the newest Call of Duty game. It seems to be the case that Kyler drops off whenever one of these games is released, early November or late October. It's just, could be a coincidence, a coinkydink.
We call it the Kingsbury dip, but is it the Murray something to do with video games. I don't have a pun.
Yeah, I've not got one either. But yeah, there was that thing a couple of years ago, wasn't there? That he just wouldn't watch video and be too busy.
It was in his
Call of
contract,
Duty.
wasn't he, originally?
Yeah.
Some like weird letter.
Yeah, he had to watch. They mandated so much video that he watched. That was just a bit of fun. But yeah, I just think the Seahawks. I think potentially an opportunity this week to grab a hold of this division. The Rams have got a real tough game. I think the Niners are done. Sorry, Joe. And obviously the Seahawks will beat the Cardinals. They'd have beat them home and away then. So yeah, I'll give me the Seahawks plus the 2.5 points. I think this might be like quite low scoring again as well. So I like the 2.5 with the Seahawks. Although every time I do back Seattle, they tend to fucking screw me. So.
But you led that on pretty well, Paul, because I've got the Seahawks Cardinals under 44.5. Nice. My next pick.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm similar. My other favorite under was the Chargers Chiefs, but I knew you'd go there, so I had this one in the bag. They played each other 2 weeks ago, and it was 16-6 to the Seahawks. Yeah. And I think it's going to be very similar, where both these defensive have come on strong, and they're both looking really good. Obviously, it's an NFC West. It's a division game, so it could go like crazy amount of points, but I think it's going to be a low one. I think both the head coaches are defensive minded, and I think it's going to be a defensive struggle. I'll just carry on with this game in terms of I've got the Cardinals to cover on the ATS and to win. I think it's going to be low scoring, but I think the Cardinals win just because they only played each other 2 weeks ago. I think it's always tough when you play each other close, and it's always the home game advantage. And I think the Cardinals played well last week, but they just couldn't finish against the Vikings. While the Seahawks played terribly, but they were playing the Jets, so they managed to sneak out a win. And it's how the NFC West is going. That the Cardinals will win, and if the Rams and 49ers win, it's all one game apart, and they've all gone 3-2 or something crazy like that in the division. So it's I've learned the Cardinals, but I've gone the under 44.5 because it was a bit higher than I expected. I expected it to be around 41, 42, just how the last game went. So 44.5 is perfect. So yeah
I like how you gone for parity in the division. The problem is Cardinals have only won one of their last 10 home games against the Seahawks.
The history's there to be broken.
Just on the division note, just a quick question for you. So the Seahawks and the Cardinals are both plus 170 to win the division. You've got the Rams at plus 280, the 49ers at 1100. You can bet on Mike McDonald and Jonathan Gannon separately to be coach of the year at 2,500. Don't you think that's a much better bet if you want to just pick one of them to win the division? Because it is I don't think the coach of the year thing is sealed up. Tomlin's a good shout. Dan Campbell's the favourite. Kevin O'Connell, Sean Payton are good odds as well, short odds.
I don't like that Dan Campbell's the favourite. We knew the Lions were going to be good this year. It was a bit of a surprise that they were really good last year, but we expecting them to be great this year.
I picked them for the Super Bowl and to be number one. So it's certainly.
It's not what that award does, is it?
No. Whereas if Jonathan Gannon, after the first year being a bit competitive, but still pick Marvin Harrison 4 overall, 3 overall.
Yeah. They all won 4 games.
4, Drake May 3, 2,500 to win the division. I'd rather back that than 170 for the division.
I'm guessing it depends how the season ends. If they win it 9-8, then it just feels like they fell into it rather than someone. If Sean McDermott, if they win the rest of the way and they go 15-2, I don't think anyone expects
14-1 as well. It's
I
think he should be closer to Dan Campbell at plus 120.
Is Kevin O'Connell second?
Joint second with Mike Tomlin, both plus 400.
I think Kevin McDonald should be the
Kevin McDonald.
Is he one of the clan from Coronation Street?
Sounds like Coronation Street, yeah.
Sorry, Kevin O'Connell. Sorry, because we were talking Seahawks, Matt McDonald. Sorry, I think it should be Kevin O'Connell. But look, we've still got a bit ways to go.
Yeah, I just thought that was an interesting way to get a bit of better value on the division winner. Anyway, so I am up and I have a favourite already done. 2 unders have gone that I quite like, so we'll wait for an under. So we'll take an over first. We will go Jags Titans over 39.5.
I was gonna take it. I like that.
Yeah, I think Mac Jones is playing, and also Will Levis is playing, so I can see why it's 39.5. But
could just be 40 points in fumble recovery for touchdowns and pick sixes.
And special teams.
Yeah,
the Jags special teams will get a couple
returns.
of touchdowns, no doubt. The Titans defensively are falling apart. You know, I know Joe's took them as a favourite here. I've took the Jags as an underdog on ATS. Not hugely confidently, just more they're getting points. And man, both teams here could just absolutely shit the bed in a number of different ways, especially defensively. I think offensively, I think I've said this a few times recently, I think the Titans have been playing a lot better. Will Levis, since he came back in, has looked noticeably better than before he got injured. Calvin Ridley's playing like a top 20 receiver. Every week seems to go off. Nick Westbrook-Akine just needs half a target and he scores 2 touchdowns. Tony Pollard is, playing the football we always wanted him to play in Dallas. Taji Sharp's now in there to take a bit of the load off. And Jacksonville, it is Mac Jones, but with the amount of injuries the Titans have, I think you can just get at them. Brian Thomas, I'll forever be back in because he just gets open at will. And if you just don't underthrow him, then he's probably going to go off for a touchdown and probably 100 plus yards again. Parker Washington's been sneaky good in the absence of Christian Kirk. Evan Ingram does everything but score touchdowns. And between Etienne and Tank Bigsby, thank you very much. I just kept thinking Dearness Johnson. I'm like, it's not Dearness Johnson, he's the third or fourth string. You can fathom together a running back between the two of them as well, especially if Sweat misses out, he's still not practicing. So, I just like it's a low number, bit of a chaosy game. And therein rests my entire thesis of why I'm picking this game.
Yeah, you just get when the numbers this low, you kind of just need if you get 10 minutes of some decent offensive play, the rest will kind of take care of itself. So yeah,
you just need to what happened last week where the Titans are 28-0 down within 10 minutes.
Yeah. And genuinely, just one or two big special teams plays makes those drives so short that you guarantee a field goal on them with just 2 completions. And it just it lets you hit that over so easily. I mean, it's been a busy work week. I don't have the Titans numbers up on over-unders in front of me, but it feels like they're helping other teams get to them a lot more than they should be.
Well, 5 of the last 6 meetings between these two in Nashville have hit the over. There you go,
nice.
Byron. I love Joe advocating for the Titans to be down 28-0 in the first quarter when he's on Titans -3.5 in his full.
Because it's the Jags and they'll just let it slip and they'll win 33-28. Happy days.
Good stuff. Byron, you need under and an underdog.
Yes, I'm going to take... You guys have took under, so I'm going to take my underdog and just wait on my under. My underdog... It's open for Seattle, I'm not going to lie.
I knew that.
Yeah, and I'm not going to go... I was tempted to go heads up with Joe, to be honest, but I'm going to go heads up with Joe in a different way. I'm going to go Chicago +4, going into San Fran, who I worry are a bit on the self-destruct. No Jordan Mason, no CMC. Not sure Trent Williams' status. Lost one of the defensive players who I've forgotten, one of the linemen for the rest of the season. It just feels like, CMC said it today, when it rains, it pours. And I think I had Chicago higher than everybody in our weekly power rankings based on where they ended up being ranked and where I had them ranked. I think Chicago are playing okay football. Again, I don't want to make out that the 85 Bears by any stretch, but I think they're playing better, and I think the new coach / guy who just keeps getting promoted every 2 weeks bump will certainly help. Just not having Everflus in the building, I think, is going to be a help. Caleb Williams has gone 6 consecutive starts without an interception. It's the longest streak by a rookie quarterback since 1950. It is the longest streak in Bears history since 1932. The Bears are also the first team in the Super Bowl era to lose 6 consecutive games without throwing an interception. So, mixed bag, but no interceptions is always good, right? Just need to focus on that. Don't even need to win, just be within 4. So, yeah, I think this could be a close game. I mean, if everyone's at full strength, this is a +10, 12 game, I think, because it's just a shame what's happened to the 49ers this season. It feels like anything that could go wrong has gone wrong.
Yeah, naturally, Byron, I'd be all over this with you. Sorry to interrupt. I'd be all over this with you because, look, we're a big fan of the interim coach bump. We know how often it pays off. My worry is, for the Bears, DeAndre Swift did not practice. Keenan Allen did not practice. DJ Moore did not practice. They could be down to bare bones on offense.
Well, they are the Bears. That's fine. Roshan Johnson, I don't believe, is practicing either, so it could be a Travis Homer breakout week.
That's not going in. He's not going in our fantasy game day team before you shout out.
No, he will be 2,200 though, so that's something. And he is good out the backfield. Got a good pair of hands on him as Homer, so Homer will be on Sunday and Monday Night Football. Well, not Sunday Night Football, but he'll be on Sunday and also Monday Night Football. So, but yeah, despite all, I mean, we can't really complain about someone else's injuries when you're playing the 49ers.
That's true. Yeah. Just think they've all just appeared this week. It's like, well, if all of those guys don't go, I'm sure plenty of them will do. But that just stayed me off as my underdog because I'd, again, interim coach, but no matter how bad your team are, is the first thing I jump for. Joe, you're up.
Yeah. Again, I wish I'd known that before my next pick, and I'm doubling up here, and I'm going to go over the Bears at 49. 44. I'm not going to change
Travis Homer game.
Yeah, exactly, because I'm not going to can't bother to look.
You had the opportunity to change that. I know you'd committed to it and made the graphic because of how quickly you popped it up, but it was like, well, you could have heard all that and gone somewhere else.
Yeah, I think the guys will play, and it's a 1 or 2 fan for the 49ers defense. Like you said, Kevin Givens has been ruled out, and it was a bit soft. I'm not quite sure boss about. I can't imagine him playing, and they've just been really soft, and they're just giving up way too many points. And I think this 49ers offense, even though it's not being closed in the red zone, I was impressed how they played against the Bills in terms of the first few drives. They managed to get a lot of things going, and I think they could do that against this Bears. Obviously, Purdy another week from that shoulder injury. And I think the Bears defense is decent, but I don't think they've been that good this year. So I can see them still scoring points. I think Isaac Guerrero is going to have a big game. And it's a must-win, so I think they're going to put some points on their playing at home in the sunshine. I think they can score at least mid-20s, and I think the Bears could easily as well. I think it's going to be a tight game. I've led the 49ers on the ATS just out of loyalty rather than brains, but yeah, I'm going to go for that one just because a lot of the other overs is even like there's 2 games where there's 2 good offenses and they're really high numbers make sense. The rest, it just feels weird. There's just like one terrible team, and I don't know how many points they're going to score. So I'm going to stick with that one. Yeah, I'm going to stick. There was one other was close, but it was a lot higher than I expected, and I think that's because what happened on Monday night. So yeah, I'm going to go Bears 49ers.
Cool. I'm going to take my favourite, and Joe, sorry to do this to you. In fact, the 2 picks I'm going to take, I think, of the games we've already talked about, so apologies. Bills -4.5 is my favourite. I think it's the best favourite of the week. Yeah, for the 4 reasons discussed. They're rolling, Rams struggling. Yeah, I think the Bills just might put a beating on the Rams there. -4.5. I like it. And then, do I need to slow down a bit, Joe? And then my over, I'm torn between 2. So there are 2 games that have got 2 high over teams, so not necessarily high scoring teams, but 2 teams that have got, they're at a minimum 8 and 4. For over so far, in terms of matchups. I'm going to take the Monday night game, Cowboys, Bengals. The other one was Tampa Raiders, who are both 8 and 4. The over. Cincinnati 9 and 3 over. Cowboys 8 and 4 over. Mainly for Dallas, it's because their defense is terrible. For Cincinnati, it's because their offense is fantastic and their defense is terrible. So I just can't see how this stays under 50.
Sorry, don't know if some facts in the chat as well about Monday Night Football.
I was just about to reel it off until you spoilt my flow.
Joe,
you go for it, Joe.
Well, I've got the Monday Night Football this year is 12 and 4 for the over, and it's the second best year for overs on Monday Night Football in the last 20 years. I think it was 2008 was the last best, and that was 12, 3 and 1. So it's not that much difference. So yeah,
there we go. Good stuff. I also think 12 and 4 we're in week 14. Of course, there's a shitload of double Monday Night Football double headers, aren't there, for Monday Night Football?
I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, I was like, we're week 14. What are you talking about? It's not been 16 Monday Night Footballs. I forgot about the terrible double headers. Yeah, so Joe, I'm real sorry to have picked 3 of 4 games that we previewed in the with my pick. So obviously not too much to talk about.
So the way Joe's got, I'm just expecting you to take the underdog Cowboys. Just everything leads into the other.
Oh, exactly. Not this time. Yeah, I haven't got many underdogs this week, and
I've got so many on the sheet, which worries me.
Yeah, I've only got 2, and one of them's the Browns, but I'm gonna go the other one. And again, I'm just gambling all this week. Why not? Fuck it. I've got the Giants to cover against the Saints at
Oh, that's
plus
disgusting.
plus 5.5.
Is it DeVito or Lock? Do you know?
Lock, I think.
Hmm.
That's what I saw.
I think it's just +5 on the sheet, Joe.
Oh, is it just +5? You're not giving me that half for
I
the
know.
for the confidence.
It was +5. That pick is absolutely disgusting. It's also, by the way, gone to +4.5. So I'm giving you a half.
Oh, thanks, Paul.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know,
It's disgusting, is what that is.
yeah, but it's not like the Saints are this some world. You know, last year I was a big Saints hater, and it made sense. I haven't been that harsh on them this year, but they're still a terrible team. Obviously, one of our favorite players, Hill, is out, so that I think that's a huge loss. And I know Dexter Lawrence is out for the Giants as well, which again is another huge loss, and that made me question this. But I think it's just going to be a low-scoring game, and it's one of them Giants win where they just win at the end of the year just to screw themselves in the draft. You know, let them keep the head coach or whatever garbage QB they've got there. So I could just see the Giants winning this game. Just that weird. And the bump of the Rizzo bump has gone. So yeah, it was in between them and the Browns. And I'm probably regretting that already because I think the 6.5 is good for the Browns and Steelers. But let's just stick with the Giants. I think the Giants are actually going to win. So
to answer, I don't know if Joe answered your question. Sorry, Byron. It is Drew Lock. Brian Daboll said that DeVito may be ready to be back up, but that Drew Lock will start this weekend. So not only Dex Lawrence is out, I think Bobby Okereke is still out. Who else is out? Yeah, the Giants have got fucking tons of people. I know the Saints have got injuries as well, but Jesus Christ, just anybody of any value that the Giants have, apart from Malik Neighbors, is hurt.
Tyron Tracy. I like Tyron Tracy.
I do, but he just fumbles the ball all the fucking time, doesn't he?
I think this is like
more than you'd like.
Yeah, I think this is the biggest gamble for Ford I think what's ever been.
12.91.
I thought you were going to add an extra 0 at the end there with the Giants on.
Well, I think with the going Titans, Giants as my favourite underdog, it's a big swing. But yeah,
hey, best of luck to you. You're feeling it, aren't you? After you hit your fourfold, you feel you can take anything on.
Exactly.
Byron, maybe you can get that feeling this week. What's going to be your last pick?
My under is going to be Jets Dolphins under 45. I think it's 45, right? It was earlier. Yes, under 45.
Yeah.
It is in Miami, which doesn't help matters, obviously. But the Jets are so bad. I don't think Brees Hall's going to play. He's nursing an injury again. Why bother? Like, don't drag yourself through it to potentially have a really bad knee injury. He's already had one in the NFL. Just rest up, let Braylon Allen get some work to end the season. Aaron Rodgers ain't coming back. Devontae Adams ain't coming back. Shut this shit down. Well, I mean, it's already shut down. Just make it official. I think the Dolphins were not comfortable winners here. We all took them. No, Paul, you've took the Jets, so +6.
Yeah, it's one I flipped between.
It's a lot of points.
It is a lot of points.
And the Dolphins aren't exactly world beaters, which is why I'm on the under. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't on my favourites list, but I think the Jets are just a sorry-looking team. Sauce Gardner might be out as well, which obviously, again, doesn't help the under, but more just like talking about the sorry state of the game. I wouldn't be stunned if this is like a 17-6 type game where the Dolphins do enough, get Devon Achane a passing touchdown would be nice, or a receiving touchdown, and then kind of just shut up shop. I don't think they're blowing anyone out of the water, but I don't think the Jets are competing either. So
yeah, this is the first time. It's only been once in the last 10 meetings in Miami that this line for points total has been this high. It was 46. It was 46.5 the line in 2020. And then it was 45 once in 2016, but it's been comfortably under that, even as low as 36. I think it was 36 last year. So, I think it might have been. Yeah,
I think it was Tim Boyle.
30-0. So yeah, I like it as an undershout. I know Miami have been better, and they were good in the second half at least against the Packers last week. I suppose they've had a mini bye on, and at home. But I don't know. I just think the Jets just kind of muck games up, don't they? Like, yeah. I like the Jets to keep it close. Right, fourfolds are in. You heard Simon, our guest, earlier on. He's Steelers, unsurprisingly, his favourite. Bears is his underdog. Bengals, Cowboys over, and Falcons, Vikings under. Byron's on Bucks as his favourite. I just saw Joe's message then, like mid-flow. Bucks minus 6.5 favourite. Jags, Titans over 39.5. Bears +4 and Jets, Dolphins under. That comes out at bang on 12-1 plus 1200. Joe's on Titans minus 3.5 under Seahawks, Cardinals over Bears, Niners, and New York Giants as 5-point underdogs at home to the Saints. I'm on Chiefs, Chargers under, Seahawks 2.5-point underdogs, Bills 4.5-point favorites, and Monday Night Football, Bengals, Cowboys over 49.5. I'm leading the way, the fourfold challenge, 30-19-3, 4 ahead of Joe. Obviously, his win catching him up a game last week, 26-25-1. Byron's on course to do the forfeit, 24-26-2. Guests, still waiting for a guest to hit the fourfold for the first time, but they're 21-29-2.
Well, they're going to get the underdog this week at least, so it's a good start for them.
It's a good start for them, yeah. I say that I'm when Manny's checked the records. Has a guest hit the fourfold?
No,
No,
had a
I
few
don't think
threes.
so.
No,
We had a 3-1, yeah.
And I think it helps out for them as well that I think the last few weeks there's been a few times they've gone against us, and I think we've beat them every single time. So
Yeah.
going with us is
You always win, yeah.
Yeah, I've got lobbers. They've got one of my picks. Byron, they've got one of your picks. Yeah.
And you bet the Vikings under, right?
Yeah, I bet that. Yeah. Yeah, I love that.
So it's obviously going to be the Browns.
The Browns. Yeah.
Jameis is going to come out. The Lord's going to answer his prayers, and
well, I was just say that's why I've gone the Giants and not the Browns to help the guest out this week.
What a gent.
You're welcome, Simon.
Excellent. Right, let's go to our ATS picks. It was a good week for us last week. I think I led the way at 11-5. Byron, was it you, Joe, or Byron? You were next at 10-6, and the other one was 9-7. So, winning weeks. Was that the right way, Joe? Yeah.
Yeah, I went 10-6. Yeah.
Yeah, and Byron, you were 9-7. Yeah. 9 games between you and Byron. It's to come close, and I'm within 20 finally. Every time I have a good week, you guys have a good week though. Like, I need one of them 11-5 weeks, and you go, 6-10 or whatever.
I think you need a few of them weeks.
Yeah, but I've recovered well from the disastrous start I had. I feel this week's gonna be one of them weeks where I do it terribly because I've got too many underdogs picked. I just kind of feel maybe we're gonna start flipping it back to a bit more balance of what's covered because the favourites have been winning quite a lot recently, haven't they? And covering. So, but yeah, let's just shout out the games where we've just got the solos. I think it's you, Joe, on a lot of these. Joe, you're on the Lions for Thursday Night Football.
Yeah, we talked about it, and I think I said I would probably go Packers the other day, but then seeing that you guys went the Packers, I thought, can't disrespect Dan Campbell like that and the Lions. So I thought it was like one of us has got to go the Lions, and 3.5, not crazy. So yeah, the Lions indoors.
Fair enough. You're also solo on the Vikings. We've talked about that game. I'm solo on the Steelers. I think the Steelers are just gonna batter the Browns. I think it's just a bit of a get right. Revenge from a couple of weeks ago on Thursday Night Football, and just kind of beat up on the Browns.
I was going to say on that game, just shouting a bet out. I'm definitely going to look into TJ Watt just with Myles Garrett calling him out the other week.
Oh yeah.
I feel like TJ Watt at least 2 or 3 sacks and having that kind of game is definitely in play.
Yeah, for sure. Byron, you're on the Jags to cover the 3.5, despite of what we talked about Matt Jones earlier.
Brian Thomas raised it off ships.
Excellent.
Trevor Lawrence.
Joe, yeah, you just took the Giants in the fourfold, so obviously you've got on the ATS as well. I'm on the Jets. I think they'll just keep it close. You've got the Cardinals, Joe, to cover as 2.5-point favourites. You discussed Byron's got the Rams to cover against the Bills. Joe, you're on the Niners, -4 against the Bears, and the Chiefs as well, as you discussed. And we're all on the Bengals to beat the Cowboys by 6 or more. We'll see how we do on our ATS picks this week. Last bit of the show then, Fantasy Gameday tips. Go play Fantasy Gameday, the UK's fastest growing and best daily fantasy NFL platform. variety of different games now. It's grown from the old, just the standard Sunday Stars offering. You've got early slate, late slate, classic no captains, dedicated island games for ballers. Whatever you're into, you can get. Sign up using promo code COVER. You'll receive a free entry after your first play. Got to be 18 years or over. Must be in the UK. And of course, please gamble responsibly. Joe, do you want to start out with your quarterback shout out for this week?
Yeah, it was a weird quarterback week. I think there was a lot of starting quarterbacks at the lowest price. But I've just gone one. I think who's going to get some. I've gone for Tua against the Jets, 6,200, and it's basically because with Sauce being out, I think he can get a lot of receiving yards this game. And I think, I've got the Dolphins to cover and to win that game. And I think, Tua is going to be a big reason where he has played well the last few weeks, and it wasn't great against Packers, but it wasn't horrendous. And being at home, sunshine against this depleted Jets, I think, not one of the high-end ones at 6,200. I think it's a good price for someone who could get some plenty of points.
Excellent. Byron, I like this shout.
Yeah, we're going with Will Levis, to give the Jags hell, man. Stealing one of Joe's best ever works there. But I think it's, again, going to be a lot of points. Very poor defensive teams. You hit Ridley, you hit Westbrook-Akine. Levis is going to be throwing the ball a lot, I think. So, 4,200, as cheap as you can get on a quarterback. Same price as Clayton Tune, for example. It's literally the bottom price for a quarterback on this game. So stack your lineup as much as you want when you can pop a quarterback in. I think it's going to be a high score at 4,200.
Yeah, that's what I took Westbrook-Akine just as my wide receiver. And Joe, very impressed, managed to get it to fit on the screen. He's got 8 touchdowns in his last 8 games, including two last week. I think he might see more volume as well in terms of how bad the Jags are against the pass as well. I think Calvin Ridley was another consideration as well, who isn't that much more expensive. I think he's only 5,000. So, Calvin Ridley could have another one of them 150-yard plus games quite easily. But I took Westbrook-Akine just because of his run of touchdowns. So inevitably he will not score a touchdown this week. And my quarterback option was just Jalen Hurts. I have a big fantasy performance last week, but he's still playing really, really well. And what he lacked in fantasy production last week against the Ravens, I think he can more than make up with against the Panthers. I know the Panthers are playing well.
Can I ask, are you worried with Saquon taking a lot of how he's been playing, and it feels like he's hyped to get the MVP? So I wonder if they're gonna, and the Panthers have not been great against the run, that Saquon's gonna take a lot of the.
No, because they're still not going to run Saquon inside the 2-yard line, are they? No. But I mean, I guess there's not as many. He still has so many plays that get stopped, doesn't he, inside the 5? So, I don't know. I think Hurts is still going to get enough, and I think it was a real low passing volume game last week. I think you could see a little bit more of it this week as well, and get more of AJ Brown and stuff going too. So I think there's enough. I think there's enough to go around with the Philly guys this week. To whichever option you go for, you're gonna hit on them. Byron, you've already kind of mentioned about Brian Thomas.
Yeah, I love Brian Thomas. Titans give up the 7th most fantasy points to wide receivers in the league. Brian Thomas is really good. I did have the actual number up, but I think he's priced at wide receiver 25 or something this week in Fantasy Game Day. I just think that's way too low. Again, 4,800, I think it's a really nice price. And it's not just when he hits, he really hits. So you might take a low score, but I think the chance of a 100 plus and a touchdown is so obvious there. So even with Mac Jones holding him back, I think Brian Thomas can pop off here. So 4,800, I think is a pretty easy slot in for me.
Yeah, and I just back. Someone I was going to go for similar reasons for the Jags is Parker Washington.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just shouting him out. He's not on my thing, but he's 2,800, and he had a 100-yard game and got tagged to 12 times. But because he doesn't, that's why I asked if the punt returns or the kickoff returns counted, because he's one of there. So he was going to be one of my shots. But I'm going to go Deebo Samuel just for the 49ers. And this mainly is, he's not a good year, and he's not playing obviously there's potential. I don't know if he's over the hill, but 3,800, I think it's a really cheap price, and I think they're going to try and run him a lot. I think with the running backs going down, and relying on Guerrero and someone that just literally signed from the Jets practice squad, that they might bring up. I can't remember his name as well. But so I think they're going to use, Patrick Taylor, because he's coming on the practice squad. I wonder if they'll bring him up instead of the Jets practice guy, but we'll see. But I think they're going to use Debo in the running game quite a lot, and I think at that price, I think he could get some volume, and hopefully that, it's a cheap price. I think it's worth it as a gamble, because I think he could have a big game, or he could be like he's played the rest of the year and do nothing. So yeah,
and
it's definitely a gamble one.
He is absolutely due. I don't think he's ever had a spell where he's been this bad. His last 3 games, he hasn't got over 21 yards from scrimmage.
I think he had one big game.
Yeah,
that one big game was at Seattle on Thursday Night Football. Was that the one game he's had?
117 and a touchdown. Yeah.
I think I just think he's no longer a one, and it needs Ayuk to open that space, and just the 49ers in general have just not done much, and especially the yak and everything. But yeah, I think at that price, I think it's a good gamble.
Definitely. And definitely take advantage of Chicago.
Yeah, exactly. And I'll carry on to my running back. I've got James Cook. I talked about earlier. I just think he's going to have a huge game against this Rams team. I think they're going to lean on him, and 6,800. That's my choice. It was going to be what Paul's chosen, but I'll chuck it over to you, Paul, since that was going to be my choice before you put it in there just before me.
Yeah, I'm going to take Alvin Kamara. I think, again, you've got... I guess Byron's pick would suggest that maybe those Taysom Hill touches he's going to get what Byron's pick is, but I think Kamara's going to get enough to really make a difference. He's not scored a touchdown since week 6 though, so I think he's kind of due. I know, I had to double check that. Be like, is that right? But yeah, he's not scored a touchdown since week 6. So I think he's due in that sense, and he's even carrying the load for this. He's still running well. He's still obviously a huge factor in the passing game as well. So he's going to get 25 plus touches. I thought.
Did you know he's never had a 1,000-yard rushing year?
It's insane, isn't it? Yeah.
It looks like he might hit this year's at 894, but the fact that he's not got 1,000-yard, I'm guessing he catches quite a lot. So I
mean, I would suspect that he would hit that to in this game. He could easily, I think he'll go over 100. Giants are. If all respect to Rico Dowdle, the Cowboys terrible at running the ball for 12 weeks and ran all over the Giants, then what's Alvin Kamara going to do to them?
That sounded respectful. And no Dexter Lawrence.
Yes, that was the other point. Thank you for reminding me. Yeah.
Certainly helps. And yeah, I think it makes sense that Saints running backs will have success against the Giants. I have gone bottom of the barrel. Price-wise, I've gone Kendra Miller coming back off IR for a reason that nobody seems to understand why he was on IR other than Dennis Allen hates
Dennis Allen knows.
Yeah, it's personal. But I think the Riz Master General can get some out of him. The Giants give up the 8th most fantasy points to running backs. Kamara's going to get his, whether it's running the ball or more likely getting a lot of passes because there's nobody else there. It's Juwan Johnson, Alvin Kamara, and Bub Means, who is apparently a real person. Cedric Wilson. MBS is going to be sneaky and play again because the Giants plays 2 safety high and 1 safety, and MBS will eat against it. So another good bet to get touchdown this week. And
it's going to be such a high-scoring game when the Giants win this game as well. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, that was going to be part of my thing. It's like, and the Saints just going to run the score over here because the Giants are terrible. But I don't want to get into that with that being your underdog. But yeah, I just kind of like Kendra Miller to. I've gone all cheapos here, truthfully. Maybe not Brian Thomas as much, but Will Levis and Kendra Miller, the bottom of the starting barrel you can get price-wise. And both just to enable you to build like a super stacked, if you want to go Jalen Hurts around that, if you want to put Saquon in as well. I don't have fantasy game day sheet in front of me. Who else is highly priced? But like Mike Evans. It just enables you to do that. And, you don't need to get a 15 points from Kendra Miller, or you don't need Will Levis to be a top 3 quarterback score. But it enables you to build out around them. So I'm really fascinated to see what Kendra Miller does because Dennis Allen clearly hated him, never got a fair crack of the whip. And I think those touches from Taysom Hill need to go somewhere. The Saints offense is in pieces, but their all lines back to a bit of fitness. And they have been running the ball really well. Again, Taysom Hill doesn't just get 150 yards in the game by magic. Like, he's a really good runner, but it doesn't happen without a team behind you. So, yeah, I'm really intrigued by Miller this week. So,
yeah. Excellent. Good shout. That's our fantasy games. Our tips have been doing really well. Our team that we end up putting in on a Sunday has been doing terribly. So just going to put it, our team needs to be, the core of it needs to be from these 9 players. Like the tips each week have been doing really well. So,
well,
yeah,
with all the budgets we've got here, we could probably put Jalen Hurts in as the quarterback and then just bang all the rest in and see what we're left with. We need to put a tight end in, I would think.
Yeah.
And we should be good.
Yeah, got it, because the Panthers are terrible.
Well,
He's injured, isn't he?
Got to stop playing, so we might put
Oh,
Grant Calcaterra in,
apologies.
and we'll have 20,000 left.
Yeah.
Can we convert that to some points?
Maybe, I guess so. Right, that's us done anyway. That's our Week 14 picks and preview show done. Thanks again to Simon Winstanley from the UK Steelers pod. Yeah, make sure you give those guys a follow. We'll be back on Tuesday with our Week 14 review. In the meantime, make sure you go follow us. Good Teams and Great Teams cover over on Spotify. Also, just a shout out, we had the Spotify rap thing through the other day. That's obviously everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
22% increase in listeners and 20-something% increase in streams. So thank you ever so much for everybody who listens and watches. I guess listens in that case on Spotify, but just shows you show we're making gradual improvements and more people are finding Good Teams and Great Teams cover in various different countries. So we appreciate you. Thanks for listening to the nonsense that we spout for 4 hours every week during the season. We're working on making it shorter. But yeah, make sure you follow on Spotify. Also on YouTube, GTW_GTC. Same handle for Twitter, X, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, probably something else I forgot as well. But all the socials where you can catch all of our bet posts across the weekend that we do. And best of luck, everyone. And hopefully, may all your bets cash. And hopefully, Byron, you hit a goddamn fourfold.
Coming this week.
Right. See you Tuesday, guys.